It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott is here. Lots to talk about. New versions of Windows for those of you insiders. We'll also talk about Microsoft 365, some new Teams features that are pretty cool. Paul will talk about how to set up your Edge and why you might want to do it before you start using it. Earnings from other companies, including Intel. And thoughts about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. We got a lot to talk about coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly, episode 801, recorded Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022. Whiskey and Egg Rice. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Melissa. Over 10,000 clients worldwide in industries like retail, education, healthcare, insurance, finance, and government rely on Melissa for full-spectrum data quality and ID verification software. Make sure your customer contact data is up to date. Get started today with 1,000 records cleaned free at melissa.com/twit. And by Thinkst Canary. Detect attackers on your network while avoiding irritating false alarms. Get the alerts that matter for 10% off and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Go to canary.tools/twit and don't forget to enter the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show we cover the latest news from Microsoft. The new and improved Windows Weekly with just Paul. I guess it's not improved, is it? I'm trying so very hard, Paul. Paul Thurrott is here from Thurrott.com. If you're just joining us, Mary Jo Foley has gone off to greener pastures. She now works for an analyst firm. She's editor-in-chief of Directions on Microsoft.com, and just left us in the dust. Just left us and said, see ya, guys. Bye-bye.
This is like you have a favorite band and this new singer comes in and you don't like it, but then it goes on for a long time. You're like, okay, I got used to this. And then the old guy comes back. You're like, who is this guy?
Who is this guy? She's the Bon Scott of Windows Weekly. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I was going to say this Sammy Hagar, but yes.
Sammy Hagar. The Steven Tyler, who's the guy in Journey that nobody remembers anymore? That guy.
Oh, Arnell.
David Lee Roth. She's the David Lee Roth of the...
Sure.
No. In fact, she's assured us she'll come back from time to time, and we have a long list of people we would like to have join us from time to time, including, I think, starting next month, Rich Campbell is going to pop in, which is great, from Run As Radio. So I think it'll be fun. But you know what? This is like how it used to be. Just you and me, Paul, talking about the Winders. It's a great taste, less filling, is what somebody said in the chat room.
Okay. Speaking of which.
New dev build. Windows 11 is out. Woohoo.
Yeah, so we had a new dev build today. I'm going to see if there's new beta builds. And then late last week, after the show last week, there were new dev and beta builds. So this is something I have willfully not ignored, but didn't pay a lot of attention to over the past year. I think like a lot of people, I get semi-fed up with this system. I don't understand it. I don't quite know why they're doing it the way they're doing it. But obviously writing the book and everything, I need to know what's coming down the pike. So I'm starting to pay a little bit more attention to this. And I would say across the dev and beta builds, which my understanding today, this shifts over time, but neither one of these relates to a very specific version of Windows, right? That's the new thing, the not so new thing that's happening in the Windows Insider preview. So they're still testing features. We'll see if they appear, and stable at some point in the future. So today's build has two different things.
I have to confess, I was a little concerned because I was looking at Twitter and Windows 11 is trending. And I thought, oh my God, did it die?
They're getting rid of it.
Yeah, they're getting rid of it. What happened? And I don't know why. It's some reason it's just trending.
It must be the Windows 11 field guide that's just pumping new life into it.
That's it. That's exciting. There's not anything particularly new. And this new build is minor, right?
Yeah, they're all minor. So, Windows 11 22 H2 came out in the beginning of October. The October/November update came out in well, they didn't really call it preview, did they? But we'll call it preview forum in week C back in October. So next week is Patch Tuesday for November, and we should see the broad release of those new features, right? So this stuff that we're looking at here, I would call these potential future moments, if that makes sense, because these are features that will probably appear in a future so-called moment update for Windows 11 22H2 over the next year. So we'll see. So in today's dev build, just a couple of things. One of which, well, they're both pretty minor. One is a kind of a UX change for the Windows Store. This is just making it easier to find what I would call non-standard content, like subscriptions, digital offers, redemption opportunities, that kind of stuff. So that's whatever. We'll see. I'm sure that will eventually make its way to the store. The other one is curious to me. This is basically, if you're familiar with how Windows 11 works, there are 4 icons that appear on the taskbar that I often recommend removing, although some of them have little asterisks next to those. Widgets, search, task view, and chat. And my contention is, for the most part, if you know how to use these features, you don't need the buttons on the taskbar. They're just taking up space. The caveat there, or the asterisk, is for a couple of those things, there's actually additional functionality if you leave them there. So, for example, with the search feature, if you mouse over the search icon, you get a little pop-up that gives you possible things you might want to search for.
Right.
If you use virtual desktops, you might actually want to leave the task view icon on.
Yeah, see, I use that because I have all these virtual desktops going.
Yeah, so leave that there, because when you mouse over that, you get
that's handy.
The desktops management. It's nice. You don't have to go into the environment.
You even see this little thumbnail, which is live, because I have a little clock in one of them, and it's ticking over, which is kind of cool.
That's right. Yeah. Now, if you don't use desktops, but you clearly actually use it pretty extensively,
you can see I do.
Yeah, you could get rid of that thing. No big deal.
What do you right click? Well, right click. How do you get rid of it? Right click and then taskbar settings. Okay.
Yep, and then you'll bring up a settings window, and you can see.
Now you maybe wonder if I should add widgets and chat. Widgets is that thing that I turned off that kept popping up, the weather and all that stuff. Right. Yeah. And then chat, I know I don't want, because I don't
You're
know
never going to want to use. But every one of these things has a Windows key shortcut you can go to. So Windows key plus S for search, Windows key plus tab for task view, Windows key plus W for widgets, and Windows key plus C for what is really called Teams chat.
Oh, that's handy.
It's handy.
I took the widgets away because I kept accidentally hitting the widgets, by moving my cursor there. So it's Windows key W, and then I would just can do that. Yeah, that's right. I remember you told me that, and that's why I took it out.
It's just
I remember that now.
So the interesting thing to me is, and I believe I have such a bad memory for this kind of thing, but what we think of as start search, which is technically just called search, but search from the start button or search from the start menu.
Because it used to say start, right? Why do we call it that? It used to say start.
Well, it's really just system search. Because actually, I will to make it to be fair, you don't have to go to start a search anymore. So that's kind of the trick, right? So Microsoft has been trying to make it really easy to get to search. So in Windows 10, remember there was a search bar right in the taskbar.
Right.
In Windows 11, they're actually testing bringing that back, but there's a button, and they're afraid that thing is not obvious enough. So the new feature they're testing is a pop-up that appears over that icon saying, "Hey, by the way, this is a faster way to get to search."
All it says now is start.
Right.
But the search and the other things have stuff. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've spent more time talking about it than it would take to use it, but it's just a little pop-up. They really want people to use search. And why would they want you to use search? Because, as we talked about maybe last week, but if not 2 weeks ago, Microsoft wants you to use what I still think of as start search to search the web, because it brings up search highlights, because web search results come up through Bing, and those results will often show advertising based on Microsoft's ad network, right? So they're trying to get you into their environment here.
I also think there's a secondary thing, which is a lot of stuff on Windows is not very discoverable. And so this gives them a chance to help you find things. Like every time I listen to the show, I learn a new thing that I could do that I didn't even know I could do. And so that's maybe another reason, right? I don't know.
Yes, but the thing that's interesting about search is it's available from so many different places.
Right.
There are literally 2 different keyboard shortcuts that launch search. You can get to it from the start menu, of course. You can get to it from the search button on the taskbar, which is enabled by default. You can mouse over it and click a little search box in the pop-up that appears when you mouse over it. You know, they really want you to go down this path. And I think this is this is all part of that services push. You know, we talked about their ad business and search business going gangbusters, relatively speaking, in the financial results they just reported. This is what they're trying to do. They're really trying to drive usage of this stuff. So
you're, if you don't want to belabor this, you tell me to move on. But I'm just, because now I'm curious. You're not talking about the magnifying glass. You're talking about the start.
No, I am talking about the magnifying glass.
Oh, you are talking about that.
It's in both places. So, for example,
but it's different when I do this from when I do the start button.
So go back to that.
Yeah.
Just look at it for a second to remember what it looks like.
Okay, I'm memorizing it.
And then start typing something like type WIN or whatever, and you'll see search results come up.
Right. Same thing here.
Search
WIN, you get the same results. Yeah. Although it has an autocomplete because I usually type update. So it thinks when I type WIN, I'm going for Windows Update, which I am actually.
And actually, that's working correctly.
Yeah.
So, but the thing that I think most people don't maybe notice is when you go to start typing, the Windows subtly changes to become this thing, right?
Yes.
It's not actually part of start. It's a new UI. Like, watch what happens to the window when you type.
It does. In fact, even I just clicked in it, it changed it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What you're really doing is closing start and opening search.
Right. And now I will grant you about the Bing thing, because I noticed my Bing rewards number is Microsoft rewards is popping up immediately, tempting me to click on that.
Well, you've turned off search highlights, so actually the MSN, Bing, whatever stuff that you would see is much less than normal. Which is fine. Don't turn it back on. It's terrible. but
that's interesting. Okay. All right.
Yeah. That's already smaller, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's today's build. Last week they released builds for both dev and beta channels. The beta channel is, and I say channels for beta because there's two versions of it. Remember, there's a build for people who are getting new features and a build for people who are not. And they're kind of doing this A/B testing or whatever you want to call it in order to test the system they now have going out into the stable world, which is you get something like 22H2. There are actually new features hidden in the OS, and they're enabled by a future update that might ship 2, 3, 4, whatever number of weeks in the future. So everyone who's waiting on next week's release of whatever we're going to call that, the November update, those things are still, those new features are actually on your computer already. There may be updates to them, but there are things you can do to enable them now. Microsoft will enable them for you in the future. So I personally disagree with this system, but the fact remains that dev channel is what it is. You get dev channel builds. There's one type of build. There's one build number. And beta channel has, two. So that's just the way it is. On the dev channel side, the tablet optimized taskbar we've been talking about literally for 18 months is now available to all insiders. So if you're in the dev channel, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, if you're in the dev channel, you will get that. There's also this new system tray overflow area. Last week I talked about how there are kind of two taskbar-based overflows. There's a major update to the main taskbar overflow coming in this November update. But there's also an update to the to the system tray / notification area overflow at the icon where you can hide icons, like the little icons you see in the corner. And they're updating that as well visually, and they're going to let you move icons around like you can already, but in the new UI. This is new. So that will be coming in the future. And then on the beta side, again, tablet optimized taskbar. This is the feature they showed off last year. They tested, they pulled, they put back in. It's coming in a future update, is also available in beta. And then that thing that I think was in your computer, I think I saw it in your computer. If you right click the taskbar, they've added the ability to go right to Task Manager back from that right click on the taskbar.
Yeah, because I'm on the Windows 11 beta that I can't get out of.
Yeah, so right. So the computer I'm on, oddly, I'm not seeing it, even though I'm semi-positive I enabled that. But I saw it on yours, and it's
we talked about that last week because I still do Control-Alt-Delete to get to the Task Manager, but I guess I'll get used to that.
I right-click that thing every day. It makes me insane. And next Tuesday, that will be fixed for everybody. So if you've been waiting on that, that's actually happened pretty quick. I have to say that's pretty good. And the other big thing is there was a phone link app update. So phone link is the thing that used to be called Your Phone, which I always thought should have been called My Phone, but whatever. It's this, right? I mean, it's like Windows is telling me it's your phone. It's your phone, Paul. Yeah, like I know, but I would call it My Phone. Anyway, they changed the name of phone link. Microsoft and Samsung have a deep partnership where if you have a recent Samsung Galaxy device, you get additional features in this app. And there's another one coming, and this one's pretty cool. So if you have mobile hotspot capabilities on your phone, you know that you can go to the phone, find that interface and settings, turn it on. Maybe you have like that quick link thing in the shade, however you do it. You enable it, and then you can go to your PC, bring up quick settings, go to the Wi-Fi split button there, choose that network, it will connect to it, and then you're online, right? That's okay. That's how life works. If you have a recent Samsung device, like a smartphone, you can now, through this integration, enable the hotspot directly from the computer. So instead of turning it on the phone first, going to the computer, connecting to it, you go to the computer, it still shows up in the list, you select it, and it enables it on the phone, and then the PC connects to it. So this is something that I'm sure Surface Duo owners might be a little upset about, but this is the nature of that partnership. And
to really confuse things, the dialogue, because I haven't installed the what's it called? It's no longer Your Phone. I haven't installed it yet.
Phone. No, it should be on your computer, right?
It says on your Android phone, go to aka.ms/yourpc. So that's really, there's a confusing thing. And then the download is something called a link to Windows. But now I'm on a Google Pixel. Is that going to, if you don't use Samsung, I remember it worked really well on my Samsung. But
it will work okay. You're not going to get this new feature. It will work okay.
Okay.
So on a recent Samsung Galaxy devices, this is built in, so you don't have to install an app. It's actually built into the OS. It's kind of neat. On other Android phones, you do what you're doing.
Yeah.
That aka.ms is like their version of a quick link.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You couldn't have, they didn't think to change the URL, which is classic Microsoft, unfortunately. So that's the old name, but whatever.
It's the old name. It's so funny. For Surface Duo, certain Samsung phones and Honor phones, link to Windows is already installed and will open from the link. Okay.
That's right.
But mine was not.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to install link to Windows now. And then once I have that,
and Samsung, it's actually, what do you call it? It's like a notification shade, and then you get something that I think of as like quick setting icons. On Samsung devices, that's one of the default set of icons you can add. It's built into the system. It's kind of a nice thing, if you want this integration.
So I'm going to link my phone. Is the QR code ready on your PC? Should I not show this QR code?
Well,
I wonder, that's interesting. Okay, pair with QR code. I won't do that. Oh, it's a little tiny little. Wait a minute. Oh, no, here it is. Okay, here's the QR code. Going to scan that. Pairing with PC. Hold tight. Pairing is in process. And now, just finishing things up on my phone.
How long is this podcast? I wonder if we have enough time.
Well, it worked it worked so well on my S23, and now I'm just curious.
I gotta say, if you ever use a Chromebook has a similar feature which works great. Obviously, for the Apple ecosystem,
Apple, you don't have to do anything because
it's just
but
amazing.
That's all to keep you in the warm confines of the Apple.
That's right.
Ecosystem.
Yep. So but Microsoft understandably wants to do as much as they can to bring this to Windows. I'd love to see anything on the iPhone side as well. But
so it went back. Now it says review mobile permissions, but on my phone I didn't get that, so I have to do this over again. Oh, all right. You're right. The podcast is not long enough.
It's not great. Yeah, no, it's not a great experience. It's hard because
it was so good with
there's kind of a multi-step thing. You have to do it on both sides, and you have to give it okay to access, your camera roll, your file,
text
whole list of text messages, phone calls.
Okay, now I'm getting all of that. Okay, I had to.
Yeah.
Oops. Allow. Send notification. Yeah, so you get some permissions. Allow. I guess.
Fortunately, the way Android works now is you can't bring up a single dialog.
Holy cow! There's a lot of allowances. Okay, and then you'll see these permissions. Got it. These are all the permissions in there that you have to give it. Quite a few. But
think about what it's doing.
Yeah, yeah. It has to have
they're all
access
related.
to the phone. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all related.
Oh, and now it's working. Woohoo! Woohoo! You can see my my spam messages and everything. Okay,
I got
cool.
some good Mexican spam messages going these days, by the way.
It's
good stuff. If you thought spam was annoying in your own language.
Oh, really? You're getting spam? Oh.
I'm getting a lot of spam from something called unotv.com.
There's only one. Thank goodness.
That's not good.
Not good. That's cool. All right.
Yeah.
So I'll give you some feedback on this. Well, do you use it with the Pixel phone or a Samsung phone?
I use it with the Pixel phone these days. Although for the book, I'm going to borrow my wife's phone because she has a new Samsung.
It seems to work. It seems to work better, frankly.
It works best with a Samsung for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and then they give me a long list of things I can install, of course.
Sure.
From Microsoft. Sure. Why? But you don't have Outlook, SwiftKey Launcher, Edge, LinkedIn, Microsoft Word, or PowerPoint, or spreadsheets, or you don't have any of that installed. Leo, what kind of Microsoft user are you?
What are you doing?
Golly. I have a couple on here.
Wow.
The last 3.
Yeah, that's it, huh? What do you got? What's at the top? Wait, go back to the top.
The very top?
Sorry.
Outlook.
Yeah, what's the Outlook?
SwiftKey, Launcher, Edge, LinkedIn, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, OneNote, To Do, Teams, Xbox Game Pass, Bing, Microsoft Start.
So, you know what's weird about this? You don't see the Microsoft Office app as one of the options.
No, they have the individual Offices apps, not the... Huh, that is interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Curious.
Curious. Yeah. And it's not like I have it installed. Anyway.
You don't have the Power BI business data analytics on your phone for some reason?
No, and I don't know why not. I really need that Power BI, baby. Power BI.
I couldn't explain what that was if my life depended on it.
That's a Mary Jo, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is cool. And it's now giving me my photos, which is nice.
Right.
Yeah. So you get access to photos, calls, and messages, and it seems to work fine. I think that's good. Yeah.
I wish it worked on an iPhone. Well, I think you get photos. I think with the iPhone, I haven't looked at that.
I haven't tried it with the iPhone. Oh.
Yeah, I think that might be the extent of it.
Well, here's a start.
This is completely off topic. This is a topic I brought up many months ago, but I felt the real need for it over the weekend, which was I have photos that are in Google Photos in my case. It doesn't matter where they are, right? They could be in OneDrive, they could be up in Amazon, wherever. Yeah, they're in the cloud somewhere. It's weird to me that I can't, and this is, I think, specifically a limitation of Instagram, but also I feel like this needs to be more of a formal mobile platform feature. So I go into Instagram and I say, I want to post some photos, but they're not photos that are on my phone because they're photos from some time ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why I can't select photos from these sources, right? So you think, well, okay.
No, you can only do it from Apple's Photos. That's it.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, no problem.
So you export them.
I do, and I did them in every way you can do them. I downloaded them to photos. I downloaded them to files. And in no case could I see those photos from Instagram. Like, there's no way to bridge that gap.
Yeah,
I found.
That's an Apple thing. I'm sure it's to protect.
Super frustrating, and it's to me it just seems like such an obvious. What you need is a file picker.
Yes,
it's extensible.
Yes, but they don't. No.
Right. Nobody does this.
So what you have to do is export them into Apple's Photos,
which I did, but it should show. The problem in this case is Instagram. So in that, depending on what I was trying to do, that should have worked. You're right.
Yeah.
Instagram, if you look at where it can find photos from on iOS, there's like 2 places, and it's just not going to happen. It didn't in my case anyway. I couldn't find them.
You have to allow access to all photos, and then it shows the Apple Photos. But you're saying it isn't a file picker, is it? It's just the Apple Photos is all you see. Yeah.
I spent a lot of time on this over the weekend, and I eventually just said, you know what, I'm gonna do this from my computer. Actually, worse than that. I'm just gonna do this on my computer to Facebook because the thing I wanted to post. I wanted this to be done sometime this century. I wasn't trying to
Hey, you know what? Once it gets into meta, it's all the same.
You think so, but you can post from Instagram to Facebook. You can't post from Facebook to Instagram.
Yeah.
A little frustrating.
You treat Instagram as your personal photo album.
Which is ludicrous because it's a terrible place to share photos.
I know, I was just going to say.
I did, like imagine you go out to dinner and you want whatever you feel about people posting pictures at dinner. You have 13 photos of dinner that you want to put up there. You can only put 10. So you can have 2 posts, one with 10, one with 3. You can do it. The one thing you can't do is have 13 posts. But if you go over to Facebook, you can post 285 photos to Facebook. They don't care.
So Dwindle in our chat room is saying that you have to conceptually change your point of view. If you want to share something from Google Photos to Insta, you start in Google Photos and use the share sheet.
I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't come up.
Oh, it doesn't come up?
I did try that. No, it's not a share target, I guess we'll call it.
You might have to dig through that long list.
No, I did. Listen.
I trust you. If you tried it, yeah.
You can do, share. It just doesn't.
Well, that's weird. Why wouldn't it show up why wouldn't Insta show up?
Actually, it literally did just show up. So now I'm wondering. No, but now I'm wondering. So I literally did 10 on purpose. So I'm wondering if it has something to do with the number. Because I was trying to meet Instagram's stupid needs. Anyway, okay, that's interesting. Now I listen. My wife and I sat there together and we did, whatever you think of me, my wife is an intelligent person.
I see Instagram, and then I can post. I can share it as a post, a story,
a reel or a story. Yeah. No, I saw that. I just saw that too. Yep.
Yeah.
So all I can tell you is I absolutely went and tried for that. I don't know what to tell you anymore.
Very upsetting. This is an Apple problem, and so shouldn't be even mentioned on this show. But it is the case that Apple's share sheet is completely borked and weird.
Oh, it's horrible.
Because frequently the thing you want doesn't show up in the obvious row, so then you have to do more and then go through the suggestions, and even then things won't show up. And you'd think that if you always share to the same thing, that thing would get entered into this top line, but it doesn't. And there seems to be no way to. I mean, maybe there is. No, I don't think there's any way. So so that's just a weird.
Because this was making me insane, I just did this again. So I just did what you did. I selected one photo, and I saw Instagram came up, and I'm thinking, what? Am I seeing things? No. So I just went and selected 10 photos.
Oh, it's because you did multiple. Yeah.
It won't do it. Yeah. Instagram is not a choice. So I just for my own edification, I don't care if people think I'm ridiculous, but this was actually important to me that I post this, and I couldn't do it. And this is the digital divide is not people who grew up on analog TV and phones from AT&T and don't know how to use computers. It's this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where I feel like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel stupid. And it just has nothing to do with, your phone link or whatever it's called, but it's reminded me of this, like how insane stuff it can be. It's too bad. There needs to be a better way to go back and forth between services.
And it doesn't seem like that's that hard to do, but for some reason.
I just agree on I don't.
Yeah.
Look, if Apple built the extensibility model into iOS, everyone would use it.
You think so? You think that's the one thing missing?
Well, no, not everything. The one thing missing. No, I don't mean it like that. I just mean if they did do this, people
would do it.
No, it's not the one thing missing.
Okay.
I think in this case, Apple did build something in, so there's a share too. And Instagram, which is terrible. I'd have to look and figure out what they support exactly. But like you, with one photo selected, 3 choices.
It's just the multiples.
10 photos selected with 10.
Yeah.
Nothing. 0. It's not even there. It's like it's not even installed.
That's got to be a bug. That's just a weird.
I think it's an Instagram. That's why I said I believe it's Instagram. I think it was Instagram's fault.
Oh.
It's an incredibly unsophisticated application.
I'm going to select 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Share 2.
I do. We are going to find the number.
Insta seems to have disappeared.
Disappeared.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. See?
No longer, and it's no longer in the extended suggestions. It's just gone.
I know what I saw. I
know what I saw.
Well, as you showed it, I was like, "That's interesting." It never occurred to me.
For a single photo, it does it. For multiple photos, it does not. But who's to say? Who's to say why? Let me try it. Now I want to see if I can do multiple photos in from Apple's Photos to Insta.
Oh, jeez, that would be something. And then also, if you could do this on an Android phone, right? Or is that what
you're right. Insta goes away. So they must be saying, "Oh no, we don't want you to do that for some unknown reason."
Explain to me. I'm sorry. There's you have one photo you want to share, and they give you options for post, story, and what was the other one? Message, probably.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
So you can share a photo to
Reels,
Instagram. A photo. This is what I'm talking about. This is how stupid this thing is. Like, it is literally, define Instagram in one sentence: a photo sharing service. It is the worst way to share photos online that could ever be imagined.
Well, here's an opportunity for somebody to step up and make a better one. Please.
Well, I'll just put the brakes on that right now, because if we need a better anything, it's Twitter. And
that ain't gonna happen.
I would fix that first.
That ain't gonna happen.
Yep, I know.
What are you, crazy? What are you, nuts? I don't know. Elon might. He might. I'm rooting for him. I ain't paying him $8. I ain't paying him $8 for a blue check anymore. I got verified. I guess if in 3 months you see my check goes away, there you go.
Here's what I'm waiting for someone to say about Elon Musk is, don't worry, he's going to surround himself by a bunch of smart people. Everything will be fine.
He did that at SpaceX. He might have done that at Tesla. Could be. You know who's in the room? You know who's, according to Wall Street Journal, assisting him in making these smart decisions? Jason Calacanis.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He also brought in one of a former director of product.
He'd bring in Kanye's got nothing going on right now. Bring him in.
Yeah.
Get the whole thing going.
There you go.
Oh, boy.
Where were we? You did the dev. Did you do the beta?
I did.
Did you do? Oh, yeah. And you did the big phone link app update,
which got me off of my Instagram mini rant.
We got the Instagram tirade in. Excellent. I'm hoping Mary Jo has packed up the gong and mailed it to me. I'm just saying. But she doesn't need it anymore.
He told me she's going to use it. She's got some kind of a group. I think there's going to be some people she works with who have a silent reevaluation of her hiring. The first time she brings up the gong in a group meeting,
Bring out the gong. That will be. Now, I want to be a fly on the wall for that. I really do.
I'm a rude enough person that I've said this multiple times to someone that we'll be in a group of friends, like guys I've known since high school, and they're like, blah, 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 blah. When one of our friends was going on, he's like, I got this pool and the guy won't cut the lawn right around the pool. And I had to fire him, and then the new guy did this. And I'm like,
Shut up.
I'm going to give you 60 more seconds on this topic, and then we are just moving along. This is a waste of my brain cells. I don't care about your pool or your lawn or
no.
no offense, but we're moving on from this.
Forget the fart apps. There should be a gong app on every phone.
Yep. Yeah. It's the time. It's just like a buzzer goes off. Like, what's that? It's like, oh, that's the alarm on the end of this conversation. Yeah, we're done. That's enough of that.
There's a nice passive aggressive way to get out of it.
Oh yeah, no, it's not me. It's in my phone. I would have kept going, but it's telling me we need to move on.
I can't help it.
Yeah, Apple.
Hey,
I mean, they know it's good.
Apple knows. Our show today. Let's take a little break. Our show today brought to you by the great folks at Melissa. If you're in business, your address list, we're just getting our Christmas card list together, right? Of course, what are we going to do? We're going to put it on, send it up to the Melissa Secure FTP server and have it updated. Wait a minute, you'll say. They don't know who's on your Christmas card list. No, but they will know if there's a bad email address, if an address has changed, if a phone number has changed, and they'll send it back to us clean and sparkling and fresh, and bada bing, bada boom, we're ready to go. Same thing with your suppliers, your customers, everything that you keep track of these days. And the thing is, you got to understand, all of those address lists are decaying. They are decaying as we speak. In fact, bad data can cost organizations on average $15 million a year. And the longer poor quality data stays in your system, the more the loss will accumulate. If your business is going to be successful, your customer information has to be accurate. Well, there's another bad thing that can happen. I mean, big deal. We sent a Christmas card to the wrong person. That's not the end of the world. I used to use Bill Atkinson's photo card app for that, and he would by hand. He would do this. Bill's an amazing fella. He would go and he would correct the addresses for us, and then he'd send me a little snarky note saying, you got to fix these addresses, Leo. These 5 are wrong, but he fixed them. So I got lazy. Melissa's the solution. And the other side, which big deal. Christmas card goes astray. It's not the end of the world. But what if you're doing customer service? Some customer calls up and you say, hi, yeah, this is Leo Laporte, and I'm really unhappy. I haven't gotten my package yet. And you're saying, well, Mrs. Laporte, is it Helen I'm talking to? We sent your package to Delaware. No, that's not me. You see, now already 10 situation has just gone to hell. Melissa can fix it. What about sending email and then it gets, because of course nowadays with email authentication, and due to increased spam and fraud, it's harder to get your emails through because of a misconfiguration on the sender's side, right? Melissa can solve this too. Melissa's global email can identify which authentications are in place. Wow, this is something new I hadn't heard about. This is so cool. They can check for the MX server of the email that you're sending out during validation and tell you, it's not going to get through because you're not doing DKIM or whatever. And you can fix your settings and improve deliverability before the email gets bounced, before to even send it. Melissa, I love you. That is brilliant. Melissa's global email identifies potential business impeding authentication systems like SPF, DKIM, DMARC. It will help you follow best practices for all 3. When you set it up right, you maximize your email deliverability, you improve ROI on leads, you reduce costly IP reputation damage because, when you send out a lot of emails improperly authenticated, at some point the receiving servers are going to start blocking your whole IP address, and now you got trouble. You may even be designated as spam, and that's the worst thing. That'll kill you. Melissa Global Email Verification Service, helping you increase deliverability, avoid high bounce rates, avoid blacklisting, protect your valuable sender reputation. So you don't look like a nudnik sending out mail to, Leo at, this ain't no address. And their solution verifies emails in real time, pinging each email to ensure the address you're sending it to, that it's active, able to receive mail. And in that process, it also says what authentications are needed. It'll correct typos, illegal characters, detects mobile email addresses that should not receive commercial email messages. Oh, man. No, I shouldn't be surprised. Melissa is the best. They've been doing this for 37 years. They're independent. They're experienced. They take good care of all your data, so you never have to worry about breaches or privacy. They are HIPAA compliant, GDPR compliant, SOC 2 compliant. These people are great. Make sure your customer contact data is up to date. There's so many things Melissa can do for you. You can get started today. Maybe do your Christmas card list, right? 1,000 records clean for free. Just go to melissa.com/twit. melissa.com/twit. We thank Melissa so much for supporting Windows Weekly. They are asking in the chat, where's Mary Jo? She, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, she's got a job, directions on Microsoft.com. She's editor-in-chief over there. She said, I'm just going to be too busy, but I'll come back from time to time, and we will count on that. We'll have her on the big show from time to time as well. So she's not a stranger.
I would be in the Discord today, but I'm using a computer and it doesn't install it on yet. I'm sorry.
Oh, I know. In Discord. But you know what? There's a nice feature to Discord.
That's true. There's a web client.
There's a web client, which I use. There's also, when you do it on the desktop and you have Discord on your phone, you don't have to log in. You can have it put up a QR code. You register it with your phone, which is already logged in, and it's boom, and it's easy. So, and we should mention, that is a feature of our Club Twit that I think has turned out to be, we thought it'd be the ad-free versions of the shows. We thought maybe it'd be access to special shows like Paul's Hands on Windows. And sure, that's good, but the Discord is so much fun that I think a lot of people consider that the real benefit. Every show has a Discord chat going on in the background, but also there's chat going on all the time about all the things geeks are interested in, including beer. Yes, you can get your beer, wine, and cocktail hit. There's a book book club. We talk about coding. There's a TikTok corner, science, travel, everything. So we are really thrilled to offer that, as well as the ad-free versions of the shows, as well as the special shows and the Twit Plus feed for less than it costs to be a Twitter Blue subscriber. How about that? How about that?
I mean, that's kind of a low bar. Honestly,
$7 a month, and you're verified.
Payment is less.
You're baby. We'll give you a blue check. You want a blue check? I got you a blue check. $7 a month is really the most important thing. I'm being silly. Is it really supports us? You know, that $8 to Twitter. Somebody did the calculations. If every blue check, 443,000 of them paid for it, it would give Elon a few $1 million. He needs He's got $1 billion a year in interest alone. He needs a lot more than that blue check's going to get you. But for us, that $7 a month, we're small. That makes a huge difference.
I also feel like you guys made a rational decision after lots of contemplating and, you know, I mean, I feel like there's kind of a seat of the pants aspect of this.
Oh, it took us months. And Lisa went out and talked to everybody and talked to different providers. I mean, oh no, she did the due diligence. She did a beautiful job. Sure. And it paid off because it works really nicely. Elon's just, you know, throwing spaghetti against the wall, which is hysterical. I mean, you know, there's different ways of doing business. That's another one.
I like that you're respectful of it.
That's another one.
Silly.
All right.
Yes.
Let's see. We've paused enough. I should tell you, you know, Steve, who also does his show all by himself, you know, because no one would work with him. No, that's not true. I don't think he would. I think he wouldn't want anybody. He doesn't even want me to interrupt. He's like, he's on a roll. And I should tell you, because he's talking a lot, from time to time, we'll say, Leo, I need a drink. Do an ad.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And I will give you that authority to say, Leo, I need a drink.
I have a drink at the hand. I can take.
I need a pulque.
I will say, I occasionally need to be interrupted, so I recognize that. No, I will not ask you for
But you could. No, I'm just saying you can. It's okay.
Usually, you know, I got my Apple Watch bugging me to stand. I got to stand during that ad. By the way, I'm pretty sure Spidiff, wasn't that an audio standard?
Spidiff is the optical audio stand. Everybody stand up now. Yeah. Paul got to stand. You can stand. You can stand. Okay.
I was really hoping you were going to see it and just flip the camera on me.
No, I don't. You know what?
Here's Paul's midsection for some reason.
Here's a little tip. I can see you during the breaks.
No, I know. I know that.
And I'm aware of what's going on behind the scenes.
And all okay.
And I try to protect my hosts at all times. Your privacy and security come first here at
He's really digging in there. What does he think he's going to find?
We're going to call you Sweet Willie Thurrott. Microsoft 365er. Yeah. What's up with that?
So, you know, one of the harder things about covering Microsoft these days is keeping track of all of the features that it adds to Microsoft 365 every month, and then more specifically, Teams. And I actually had the chance to talk to the guy who writes these posts one time. This is a couple of years ago, but he admitted to me that incredibly difficult to keep track of this stuff. Because a lot of this stuff is, I'm just going to look at Teams today. Maybe next week there'll be a Microsoft 365 all-up version, but they just published a post. You know, here's what they call it, here's what we released. This is one of the tricks to it. This is really what we announced. And some of this stuff is out now, some of it's not. There's a Teams Premium feature that can't possibly be out because Teams Premium is coming in preview form in December, but they announced it as a feature they released in October. So this is kind of a list of features that Microsoft added or plans to add or planned to add, I guess, in October. It's an interesting list. I'm not going to list the whole thing, obviously, but I kind of cherry picked the things that I thought were the biggest deals. So if you're familiar with Together Mode, that's the image I used on my article. It's the one where you have maybe seats like in a movie theater, and you can kind of put people in there, and you know people join the meeting. The idea behind Together Mode is we want meetings to appear to be more natural, more like a real life meeting, and that by doing that, maybe it sort of lessens the anxiety or whatever. Increasing the anxiety, Microsoft has decided that they're going to allow IT and meeting organizers and presenters to assign seats in together mode. So it's like one of those things like you go to a wedding or actually a work meeting and they're like, well, you're going to be sitting with Bob and you're going to be sitting with Mary. They're going to force that kind of thing. Like that's something people have done to Brad and I a lot. It's like you guys always screw around in the corner. So Brad, you're going to go over here with him, and Paul, you're going to go over here with this other guy. So they're doing that.
I remember that Ignite where you guys made a pillow fort during the
That's
show.
right. That's right. You can't we're children. So it's, this is okay, whatever. So it's a nice expansion to together mode. Actually, I think that's fine. If you're familiar with Teams, you can pop certain things out into a new window. So if you're in the middle of a meeting and you're like, I want to share my screen, or I want to share a PowerPoint presentation, or whatever it might be, you can pop out chat, meeting, and calling experiences. Now you can pull out shared content. So if it's like a PDF file or whatever it is, you can do it side by side thing where you have the participants in one window and the content in the other. And so instead of everyone just looking at that thing, you can be looking at each other and at that thing at the same time. The biggest one is unfortunately a Teams premium feature. I'm kind of curious how that's going to fall out, because I think the preview pricing they talked about was $10 per user per month. We'll see if that sticks. But
ouch.
Not surprisingly, if you look at the list of hot new features coming to Teams over the next year that they announced Ignite, all the best ones are coming to Teams Premium, right? So this is actually a great example of it. Teams already supports live captioning. So as you're speaking, it's captioning what you're saying live. Teams Premium will soon have the capability to translate those captions live into 40 spoken languages during meetings. So you have a group of people from around the world, maybe some of them speak different languages natively. They can choose to have what's being spoken translated into their language, during the meeting in real time. It's incredible. That's a neat thing, I think, for everybody. It's just incredible. This is some companion mode stuff.
But you have to pay
users.
$10 a month for that?
Yeah, and it's not there yet. So
I could see though paying if that was a need, like you had to have international calls or what. I could see paying for that. I understand that.
A lot of multinational companies.
Yeah.
My friend works in the financial services industry, and 50% of the workforce is in Singapore.
That's worth it.
And they
speak English,
but their primary language is not English. I think it might be Chinese actually, but
it depends. It's a Malaysian nation, but there are
I could be wrong.
Chinese there and all different nationalities. But English is the default language in Singapore. But
okay,
it's true though. There's lots of places where that would be useful.
So that's kind of neat. There's some new certified devices. Some of these are actually kind of cool. So these are third-party devices that are certified to work with Teams. It's Sony YY2969 earbuds. Whatever. It's something called a Neat Frame, which is basically an external USB-C display, but it's portrait mode display. So it's meant to be used with your laptop. And I think the idea here is when you're having a Teams meeting or using Teams occurs just on that display, and it's especially organized for that kind of thing. And then you use your laptop as you would normally. So that's we'll see. Every office communication, whatever product that's ever existed, has had some family of third and first party devices. So obviously, Teams being so successful, we're seeing that explode. So that's kind of interesting. A new PDF experience. You can now, if you have Adobe Acrobat, you can use it as your default app for viewing and editing PDFs in Teams. Suggested replies, which is something we see in every single messaging app on mobile, basically uses machine learning to look at what someone just said to you and then pops up, 2 or 3 possible replies, which usually will probably take the form of an emoji, like thumbs up kind of a thing, or whatever that. But useful, I think useful. Certainly on the phone, it's useful because you're often doing something else and you want to get that done as quickly as possible before you crash the car. And some kind of a file management interface. So this is something I run into actually in my own work, because every Monday I send in an editorial, which is a Word document. You send it into Teams. It goes into storage up in the cloud. The person I work with who edits that reads it, edits it. The original's still there. I can look at it. We kind of go over it, and then it goes out into a newsletter. The problem is this is one giant bucket of storage. It's not like folders with dates and things like that, at least not yet. I'm thinking it will be. So I, of course, use these simple file names, and then I've tried to use the same file name multiple times. I can rename the file before I upload it, but what I can't do today is go in and edit that thing, rename it, and that kind of stuff. So that is being added now. You can delete and rename files in a channel using that more ... option. So There's a lot more those are the ones I just kind of picked up, but there's a ton of other stuff. Microsoft has a post up on the Microsoft 365 blog today. You can check it if you want to see full list.
I wonder how they get the idea for what features people want. They must test, right?
So they definitely use some of its feedback, right? So much as we sort of joke about Microsoft, it's not really a joke, but as much as we joke about Microsoft ignoring feedback, well, there are many Microsofts, right? So I deal a lot with the Windows side of the house, and to me, that's the important bit. But broader Microsoft 365, honestly, that's a different. Well, they're part of the same org, but it really is a different business, and they handle things differently. They do things differently. They do a much better job of documenting what they're doing, and they absolutely do a much better job of responding to feedback. So where they drop the ball a little bit is they have so much going on. There's so many balls in the air that they'll announce something in April. It could be the most random little feature, but there's going to be some group of people, because billions of people use this thing, want that feature. And so June comes, July, September, and people like me will start getting emails. Hey, remember Microsoft announced this feature? What's going on with that? And I don't remember that, so I have to go look it up. And then what you discover is they never released it. They'll announce that it's possible. I'm not accusing of this, but it's possible there's a feature or two on this list that they've announced that, well, that's not really possible. I think teams are going to follow through, but broader Microsoft 365, think about the many permutations. Like, we're going to add the ability to use arbitrary object types in Excel on iOS. And this is something that may or may not be on Android, Windows, Mac, web, whatever the different clients are. Is it ever going to come to iOS? I don't know. So it gets tricky because there's so much going on with Microsoft.
I'm sure we've talked about this before, that they have a very evolved process. That's probably documented in a big thick binder somewhere.
I was going to say there's a Hobbit somewhere with a giant. I think you're describing it like this evolved process. Like, what's been going on with this feature? I don't know. Bob's been out sick for 3 weeks.
You see, I don't think it's that. I really don't. I don't think it's offhand. I think it's probably extraordinarily bureaucratic to add a new feature, especially to the broader Microsoft 365. I'm sure there's meetings. You have to justify it. You have to write it up.
Here's the problem. So one of the things I glossed over in that list of new features was there's a new companion mode feature for the Android client of Teams, right? So the idea is you're sitting in front of your computer, but you also have your phone, and these things can interact in some fun ways, and you can do something on the phone, something on the computer. Doesn't really matter what it is, but it's impossible to mention that without someone raising their hand and saying, that's cute. When's the iOS version coming? They didn't say anything about that. I have no idea. And I kind of wish when it was non-critical that they could align these feature releases a little bit better. Like we talked about dark mode. I think it was for Word on the web. That was an announcement. The right reaction to that was, wait, this didn't exist before? Is this really a thing? And the answer is yeah. I mean, dark mode has been on the desktop client for several years, I would imagine, by this point. It has never been on the web before until this past month.
That's another thing Microsoft does, which is sometimes they have separate teams for each platform, and then sometimes they have a unified code base.
Right.
And it's and I mean, in the early days of Word on the Mac wasn't the same program as Word on Windows.
It's exactly well.
Today it is.
And by the way, in some of the really ugly days past, Word 6, that time frame, Office, pre-Office 95, there was the same code in both, but it was horrible because it was P code, and it ran horribly slow on the Mac.
Yeah, it was terrible.
That's right.
Plus, it didn't use Apple's official memory management.
Yep.
They had their own custom. It was So it's tricky. I mean, now it's not just Apple. It's not just Mac OS and Windows. You got Android and iOS as well. Yeah. It's challenging. I don't know how they do that.
I think this is where web technologies make things a little easier.
Absolutely.
I just feel like a company of Microsoft's size and sophistication can come up with a spreadsheet that says, look, we're going to ship this feature. I'll just make, arbitrary feature in Excel. We need to know that within 1 or 2 months of each other, this is going to come out on desktop, Mac, and PC, on the web, on Android, on iOS, and possibly in that Office mobile app as well, which has a subset of Excel functionality. And wherever it's not going to appear, we need to be able to say right on day one, it's not going to be there. And here's why. They don't do that. And the reason they don't do that is I described a non-feature. I didn't even say what the feature was. But they release like 150 new features every month. I don't know how you could possibly keep track of all this stuff, because 150 is not 150. Sometimes it's 150 times 4 or 5 if you count all of the clients. It's just a big management hurdle. So I don't mean to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I really wish they were a little more organized with new features, especially to products that I feel are pretty mature and maybe could be scheduled better.
You're right, though. The long-term solution is web.
It's web. Yeah.
Web.
It's all web.
But do you think ever there will not be an on-prem disk version, perpetual license of Office? I think there's always going to be.
I mean, never say number. I don't know. Honestly, I feel like there is no reason why they couldn't get rid of the native clients or build the native clients in such a way that they take advantage of the same web underpinnings.
That they are the web, like an Electron app. But better.
That's right.
Right.
The problem is Office apps are huge, right? So these legacy apps are humongous.
Yeah.
Yep. And so what maybe makes more sense is to kind of do what they are doing, which is slowly try to replace most of that with new apps like Loop, right? And Teams that are more modern, are web-focused, web-based, web-first, or whatever you want to call it. And then kind of those things will always kind of be there, but maybe they become less important over time and it doesn't matter at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're too complicated. They've tried, by the way, right? So web was going to be the focus for a while.
Yeah.
There were those new mobile clients when Windows 10 first came out, maybe even Windows 8 something. Those are going to be the future, but they run into roadblocks. It's too hard to duplicate all of the functionality from the classic clients, and there's too many people who use them to accept something that doesn't do as much stuff, because they always need that one feature that's not there.
It's fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah.
I wonder if Edge at some point, that the back of their minds, I mean, that's what they did. They replaced Internet Explorer with Edge. They were able to do that. I wonder if there's technologies in Edge designed to foster future web-based versions of their productivity apps.
Oh. Okay, it's funny you say that. Did I put this in the notes?
I just guessed. So I read your mind.
No, it's really interesting that you say that, because so there's a new version of Edge out. Just get that out of the way real quick. There's really nothing new there. Microsoft is promoting things like the sidebar, but sidebar was in 106, the previous version, so I'm not really sure what they're talking about. There's a couple of new enterprise policies that are available, like around workspaces, which is interesting. And you can enable that's a flag, so it's not a stable feature quite yet, but it's if you have an Azure AD account or in an org that uses Azure AD. You can enable that for the group, and you can experiment with it. But by and large, Edge is on a 4-week schedule. Nothing major going on in this release. That's fine. I've mentioned a couple of times now that I use Brave, and I recommend Brave. I really like Brave. I like everything about it. But
also based on Chromium, like Edge.
That's right.
So you get the same engine.
And this is, if you want to just waste your life, go on Twitter and mention to people that Mozilla shouldn't exist anymore because they don't use Chromium.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that, baby. I'll be the one in your replies. I will.
It would just
pile on.
End your weekend early. Have that conversation. People are really they're really open to it. But I do feel I don't trust Google either, but I feel like standardizing on the web rendering engine might be the right choice for that industry for so many reasons. I think everyone understands why. Whether or not you agree with it, I want Mozilla to survive. I want them around. I think they make the web better. But I will say it's a competitive disadvantage now for them, unfortunately, because they have to kind of keep up with everyone else. A lot of the major browser vendors aren't doing the hard work of maintaining a rendering engine. They're making contributions to an existing rendering engine. And it's kind of a consortium, or well, not really, but let's call it a consortium that kind of works in that together. I think that's a good approach for the web. Okay, so Microsoft did that. I like the idea of Edge, generally speaking. Strip all the Google nonsense out of it. Add back a bunch of Microsoft nonsense, frankly, which is what they did. And here's our browser. So I think for Microsoft, this was the right choice. They did the right thing, but going back and I think I've been using it now for maybe 3 weeks. And and writing about it for the book. And I have to keep reorganizing the content because unfortunately, I keep coming up with this stuff that falls into the category of, if you're going to use this browser, you really need to make these changes. And it's like a really big list. If you're not going to use this browser, but you are going to use Windows 10 or now 11, you're still going to want to go in and configure this thing because whether you like it or not, Edge is going to pop up sometimes, right? And you want to be protected if it does. So everyone uses a smartphone. So you know that if you're on Android, Chrome is running in the background, even if you're using Brave or Firefox, because that's what happens depending on what app you use. It's the back-end renderer. And on iOS, it's the Safari engine, right? So, you know, this is a fact of life in these worlds, and it's a fact of life on Windows 11 now. It's not something I like, but it's a fact. So we can step through all the different times where Edge comes up, but it doesn't really matter. The fact is, even if you use Firefox or Brave or whatever your browser choice is, Edge, is going to run, right? And so this has also informed when I'm writing about this product, right? I will say in the world of web browsers, honestly, once you configure it the way you want it, there's nothing really wrong with Edge. It's better than Chrome, not as good as Firefox, not as good as Brave, certainly, at doing things like protecting your privacy and preventing tracking, right? But you can solve that problem with extensions. I think that makes it, mostly acceptable. The trickier stuff is the same thing that makes Edge good for a lot of people, which is the OS integration. If you're a heavy Office user, if you're just a Microsoft guy, for lack of a better term, I kind of understand why you might want to use Edge. You can enable 3 different sidebars in Edge at once, which is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. If you want to, you can do that. I turn everything off. Well, not everything, but I turn most things off. There's a lot of deep integration with the OS. But some of it will rob you of resources even if you don't use Edge. So for example, let me look at.
It'd be cool if you would just write an article on setting up Edge correctly and post it at therot.com. Yes.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I will do that. Actually, so here's the joke is that article is about to be updated. And the reason is because I've had to pull another thing into it. So if you go into Edge settings, right, if you have Edge on your computer, you might be able to do this.
Okay. Yes, I do.
The thing I'm about to talk about is not in the book yet, so it's not in that article, but it will be eventually. So you go up to that little, there's another little thing.
Oh boy, it didn't take any time as soon as I loaded Edge to say, because So first of all,
part of the behavior I'm not executing. Don't ever say yes to that.
Don't update my browser settings. Now I'm going to go over settings, which this does look so much like Chrome's menu. Okay.
So on the left, about 2/3, 3/4 of the way down, you'll see system and performance.
Okay.
There are 2 main parts to it. Top is system and the bottom is optimized
Startup
performance.
Boost.
Startup Boost is Edge actually starts running in the background when you boot up your computer. Now, if you're not using Edge,
that's interesting.
You should turn this on. You can run it once and turn it off, right?
Yeah.
Turn that off. Running background extensions and apps, you can turn that off. It's not going to matter if you're not using it. But obviously,
do you have the buttons that I have that let me vote? Are you satisfied with Startup Boost?
I know.
Do you get those, or is it just me?
No, it's everybody. It's not because you're in the beta channel.
It's because I'm getting polled.
It's unstable.
So you suggest turning that off if you don't run Edge all the time. I use it, so I'm not going to turn it off. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
I only use it. I don't use it as my main browser. I just use it as a PDF reader. So maybe the smart thing to do would be to get make Firefox will read PDFs. Have Firefox be my default PDF reader.
Yep.
Because I'm already using that.
Any browser used can do PDFs. Yeah. That's right. The bottom section though is a little trickier, the optimized performance section, because efficiency mode is a new, I'm going to call it power management feature. It's not really, but a feature of Windows 11. And so the idea there is that you might have a process or an application that's hammering the microprocessor. You can, through Task Manager in Windows 11, try to prevent it from doing that by turning on efficiency mode, right? And the reason you do that is because that might solve the problem. Now, if it doesn't, you can still kill the app from Task Manager, but that's one strategy now in Windows 11 is new. So this feature is built into into Edge as well. So Edge is one of the apps that will show up in Task Manager with efficiency mode enabled, as it is by default. It's only supposed to run when you're unplugged or low on battery, that kind of thing. It will turn on efficiency mode if you're gaming. So if you're running a PC game, this thing will kind of throttle back, which I think is good behavior.
Is this efficiency mode globally or just in Edge when it's an Edge setting?
It's available globally to modern
I understand
apps,
that.
and it is available in Edge, which is technically kind of a hybrid app. It's
but is this setting, when I set it here, does this set it globally or just for Edge use?
Just for Edge, I'm sorry.
Okay, good. That's what I want. That's sensible.
You could go into this and say, I don't want this, whatever. You could try to outthink it and turn it off if you want. To me, efficiency mode is fine. I wouldn't actually touch that.
But there is a lot of stuff that is Edge specific, like save resources with sleeping tabs, fade sleeping tabs, and all that stuff. I don't like, this is a weird one. I think this is a technical person thing. I think for average users, the idea here is a lot of people just open tabs. So tap. Yeah.
20 tabs, 40 tabs.
I only have a couple of tabs. Even on Firefox, which is my main browser, I only have 3. But I do have pinned tabs, so maybe that's a little different. I have quite a few pinned tabs.
Right. So what's interesting is, so I've been I obsess over this. So I don't usually have more than 10 or 12 tabs open at a time. Yeah. Obviously, there are exceptions. So I feel like in my case, I don't really need sleeping tabs. So of course I think that because I'm like, I know better than Microsoft. So on my own computer, I typically turn this off. I've been leaving this on just to kind of deal with it. Honestly, it's not as aggressive as it was when they first announced the feature. I believe the default, let's see if your computer says the same thing, but I think the default time of inactivity before they go to sleep is 1 hour, which is not it's not very aggressive. Yeah. The other thing that I noticed, you won't see this in yours because you're not using it, but I pin tabs for Gmail, Google Calendar, and Twitter to the window. I keep those always on. And then I have my own windows, like I use Thurrott.com, Google News, the old reader, which is kind of a Google reader.
I would do that if Edge were my primary browser, for sure. Yeah.
Well, what I noticed was it on its own put every single one of those in a list of don't turn on sleeping tags for these things.
Oh, it kept them awake.
With one. It keeps them all away, except for Thurrott.com. So if I go into this thing, I can say, well,
I'd be hurt if I were you.
Well, I don't know. Well, I mean, my site is not constantly updating with new content.
Do you think it's sensing what the site's up to?
Yeah, because it is. It's using heuristics. There are sites that have certain behaviors that are not compatible with sleeping tabs, and I think things like email, calendar. Think about this: Twitter. Right, a feed reader, a news reader, which is every one of these things is updating. They can't go to sleep. It would hurt or literally turn off the functionality of the site. So it puts them into this list. Call it a like an allow list, right, or a block. I guess block it from using sleeping tabs. I mean, honestly, that's pretty smart, So I think me as a technical user, I would overthink this and say, I don't need this stupid feature. That's for normal people, or something. But honestly, it's not horrible. Like it. What I don't like about it is when a tab goes to sleep, it's faded, and then you click on it, and it loads as if it wasn't there already. But of course,
there's no point in pinning it because.
Well, it might just be an open tab. It might just be an open tab. It's something you forgot you were, it's one of the many things you have in your list. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're going to use this browser, you got to make a career out of configuring it. Like you really,
you got to really think about it.
You really have to think about this stuff. I appreciate what they're trying to do. It is a fact that people use browsers on Windows more than every other app combined on average. It's the app we're all in all day, every day. These apps are big and you load tabs. They take up memory. They use the microprocessor. Doing anything you can do to make it more efficient within the context of what it is difficult because you harm functionality. And they're trying. And I guess I appreciate this. I think this stuff, this system and performance stuff, this is the content I've been working on. I'm going to move it to that chapter you were just referencing. I think this is something, if you're going to use Edge or if you're not going to use Edge, you need to think about this stuff just for a second. Turn off Startup Boost. If you're not going to use Edge, don't let this thing run in the background when you're not using it. That's stupid, right? If you don't ever use it. Like if you're like, I'm going to use Chrome. That's what I'm using. Run this thing once, turn off all the nonsense, just whatever, because it's going to run sometimes, right? Because it still runs from search highlights. It runs from widgets.
Yeah, it's
search
always
results,
alive.
whatever. Right?
Yeah.
It's still going to run,
Yeah.
but don't give it your system resources, right? Just don't bother. Who cares?
I wonder
So
if it's
just
smart
something to
enough
think
to say, "Oh, you have it pinned, so I don't want it to sleep," or "Oh, you have notifications turned on for that site, so I don't want it to sleep." I wonder if how smart
you know
it
what?
is.
That's right. Okay. I'll test that actually. I do, like I said, I think it's interesting the types of sites. It's email, calendar, Twitter, news, and a feed reader. These are all things, like I said, they're constantly polling and potentially updating you. You really wouldn't want those to sleep. You don't want your email to go to sleep. I have push email. I don't want to I don't want to go to the site and have it then check for email. I want that to run in the background. Like I hope it's that smart. I'm giving it maybe a little more credit than I should, but I think it is that smart. I think that's.
See, I don't. I
I'm doubting myself as I
don't
say,
want my email program to be of any kind, browser or standalone, to be checking all the time. That's a. If I'm not going to check, if I'm not going to visit it all the time, I want it to check when I visit it.
I don't think it's actually checking. I think this is push email, right? So I think what's really happening is there's a heartbeat,
right?
And when there's mail, that thing receives a message. If that thing, up on the cloud, it's going to happen without our involvement. What I mean is, in the browser, you may not find out about it right away unless you let that thing not go to sleep, right?
Out of Sync has a very good point in our IRC. He says browsers are the new operating systems. Why wouldn't they require OS level configuration?
Right.
And actually, I like it that Microsoft has put that in. A lot of browsers, they put it in the about config, this kind of hidden area.
Right. That's right. No, they do. Look, let's not give Microsoft too much credit. If where Microsoft puts the option for changing the search engine is the most Alice in Wonderland, furthest hole down imaginable. It's crazy where this thing is. Like, it doesn't. This is not what. Other than the fact that the main heading is privacy, search, and services, I'll just ruin the surprise. It's the last option, and it's like you could spend so much time looking for this. I mean, you can use search inside of.
But this is the modern
settings.
world. There's so many settings in everything. Sometimes I'll tell somebody, you get a new phone, the first thing you should just do is go through every single setting one by one.
I lay on the bed and spend 2 hours just going through. It takes a long time.
And it also gives you an opportunity, people like you, an opportunity to write articles like this, which is great. Because if you're a very serious user, you want this. If you're not, you don't. And so this is a kind of an advanced, this is a black diamond.
This that thing that you're showing a picture of, which is the kind of out-of-box experience for Edge, is one of the most insidious bits of UI I've ever seen. Not that particular screen, but the 34th screen in, where it says, browse the web the way you want, something like that. No, it's browse the web the way Microsoft wants you to browse the web is what it really is. You're literally agreeing to give up your privacy so that it can track you all around the web and then serve you ads that are tailored for your interests. That's what you're agreeing to. And that's not what it looks like you're agreeing to. And I have a problem with that. Then I look at features like tab sleeping and efficiency mode and everything. I think, well, okay, there's a part of this group that has their heart in the right place. Like, they're trying to do the right thing. But then the front end to it is like, man, there's a lot of stuff you're going to want to turn off.
It's a different group, isn't it?
It has,
Two different groups.
To be, yeah.
You got your marketing and you got your engineers.
It is as complex as an OS. And when I prepped this section of the book, when I came up with the preliminary list of topics which have expanded, my first reaction was, this is its own book. This is not that anyone would ever want to buy a book about Edge, but I mean, it's so much to it. It's crazy. Crazy how much stuff there is in this product. Anyway.
It's good for you.
I get it.
Good for you. How many pages are in the book now?
Oh, it's over. The version I have that's not public yet is about 405, 407, something like that.
That actually sounds small.
Well, it's only about a third of the way. It's not quite. It's
sounds scant.
Scant. It's a pamphlet. It's
a 400-page pamphlet.
Yep.
Well, I mean, you've written books that are more than 1,000 pages, I bet. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
If this thing falls through the way I think it's going to be that size. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
It's depressing.
And most, well, no, it's not. You're doing a great service, and most people won't want it. But if you are a power user, if you're an enthusiast, if this is your thing, then you do want it because you want to get it just so. And I
just wanted to tackle some of the power user stuff I never wrote about.
Yeah.
Our Automate, PowerShell, Terminal.
Yeah.
The virtualization features like Hyper-V and Sandbox, the Windows subsystem for Linux. There's a lot of these kind of features that you never quite get to. And I want to make sure this book is everything. So,
well, and there's maybe it's just you and me, but there's a real joy, in my opinion, in studying it and become adept at it, and spending the time and reading a 1,000-page book and going through every setting and really knowing and getting it just the way you want it. That's not for everybody, but for a certain group, probably most of the dozers and winners listen to this show. That's actually, maybe that's the difference in a winner and a dozer.
You write a book about it?
A winner cares. A winner reads the book. Dozers is like, whatever. I'll just take it as it is.
Back in the late 80s, early 90s, when I would read these books like Programming Windows by Charles Petzold, I read a Woody Leonard book about Word Windows 2.0, which had a programming model based on Visual Basic. I used to think, man, these guys are geniuses. They just know everything, and they just kind of uttered it out into the world. And then I kind of writing books, and I realized they don't know everything. They learned everything when they wrote the book.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of research.
It's one way to force yourself, to figure things out.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of research.
It's better now too, because you can get feedback from people who are subject experts on particular things. Like someone just piped in the Discord there or whatever, and that helps too, because there's a feedback loop that can occur now that couldn't occur with an author in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice.
It is nice. Yeah. I'm not sure I'd take advice from somebody named Death Zero, but okay, if that's where you want to go with that,
I'm good with it. You have to have a certain level of
confidence,
enthusiasm, and confidence.
Confidence,
exactly.
Yeah, no, I'm just teasing you, Death Zero. Please. Outlook. I didn't even know there's a unified. I'm sorry, OneNote. I didn't even know there's a unified OneNote app.
Well, that's a joke, Leo. There isn't.
Okay.
So it's coming. So Microsoft, this is another great example of back and forth. I talked about the future of Office, remember, was going to be the web, and then it was going to be those new style mobile apps. And then it's like, well, yeah. So OneNote has followed a similar trajectory. And this is an interesting case because I felt like I'm going to call it the UWP version, a modern app version of OneNote, which was called OneNote for Windows 10, I thought was the best version of the app. There was a time where Microsoft had brought out Office 2016, which included OneNote 2016. That was the end of the line. They were retiring that thing. They would keep it around because they added the new features to the UWP app. And a few years went by, and I think they realized what other groups at Microsoft realized about that platform and about the web, which was they could not duplicate everything from the desktop Win32 version. And so they announced they were bringing back classic OneNote. So OneNote 2019 appeared. OneNote 2019 was just 2016 with a new name. This was going to be the base client going forward. They were going to get rid of the UWP version over time. And they were going to bring in features from the UWP version because that was the only one that had been updated for 2 or 3 years there. And also some UI stuff because there was some nice simplified UI there. So flash forward to 2022. That app is not available yet. However, what I'm going to call the classic desktop version of OneNote, which is now just called OneNote, right? No number on the end of it, is now available from the Microsoft Store. So you can download it just like you used to be able to, well, you still can download OneNote for Windows 10. So, of course, hearing this last week, a lot of people like me said, neat, I've been dying to check out this simplified UI. And then you download it and you got on OneNote 2016. It's just the same stupid app. So it's not there yet. But this one will be updated over time to that new consolidated client. So this is the base of it. Last week I talked about bringing the simplified ribbon to Word, at least. I think it's Word, Excel, and probably the other main 3 or 4 apps. If you join the Office Insider program on your Windows desktop PC and are running the desktop version of Office, you may or may not over the intervening days or weeks be offered this update to this new it's not really a simplified ribbon, but that's what they were calling it originally. It's really just a toolbar. It is humorous to me that OneNote still refers to it as a simplified ribbon. This is another example of different groups at Microsoft not being on 100% on the same page. But the idea is that the desktop version of the app will carry forward. Maybe this is if you're familiar with Microsoft programming stuff, maybe this is a Windows App SDK thing where they're throwing a WinUI 3 front end on top of it, modern UI. We have the legacy app on the back end. You're going to get that toolbar / simplified ribbon that we've been talking about that you can see in the web apps that you sort of saw an older version of in OneNote for Windows 10. So it looks like it's going to look nice based on the pictures they show. But man, if you download that thing now, prepare for disappointment because it's that thing's like 6 years old now? Yeah, older. I mean, it's just the old version of the app. So it's coming. I guess is the way to say it.
Do they say that it's the unified OneNote app?
That was the announcement. I thought, that's why I thought I was getting
here.
it. And then
No,
it's not here.
It's not. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Let's take a little time out. You can stand up and stretch. And I can tell.
I'm not going to stand up.
He only does it when his watch tells him.
Come on.
I could tell people about this little doohickey. This thing is so cool. What do you think? That it looks like an external hard drive.
It's got to be
What do you think?
Is that a network protection device like a?
You are so good, Paul. It is the Thinkst Canary. It is, in fact, a honeypot from our sponsor, Thinkst. A honeypot in a device this size. It's kind of unobtrusive. It can sit on your desk or in a corner in a closet. Most companies would have a few of these because what you do, this is the canary in your coal mine. What you do is you scatter these around, and the beauty of a canary, you can make it look like anything. This one looks like a Synology NAS. It could be a Windows server. It could be a Linux server. It could have, it could be a SCADA device. It could be almost anything. It can have just one or two services turned on, kind of stealth mode, or you can light it up like a Christmas tree. You control it, and it's easy to change at any time. You just go right into the console and configure it. But here's the deal. It doesn't look like some security device to the bad guys. It looks like something valuable that they're going to want to investigate. So here's the problem. Unfortunately, companies find out way too late that somebody is in their system. They spend millions on perimeter security, and they just figure, well, nobody's going to get in, right? But attackers are sneaky. In fact, they don't necessarily trigger, their presence immediately. Very often, in fact, on average, it will take 191 days for a company to learn that they've been breached. That's on average. And I could think of cases, Marriott, where the attackers were in there for years and they had no idea. This should make you nervous if you're responsible for keeping the company secure, that you don't know if there's somebody in there. This will tell you, because they don't look vulnerable on your network. They look valuable. They're sitting there just humming along. You don't get deluged with alerts. It doesn't ping you every once in a while and say, I'm here. It's just silent. In fact, I haven't heard from my canary in a while because I haven't been attacked in a while. But the minute somebody tries to log on to this Synology, I will get an alert and I will know something's up, right? Because on the normal course of events, nobody would be attacking this. Attacking, it's not even an attack. No one would try to log in because it's not a real server. It's a honeypot. They also can create, every canary can create what they call canary tokens. These are files that act like tripwires throughout your network. They can look like spreadsheets or PDFs or Word doc, anything you want. They look like files. I'm not saying I do. I might have a file on a share in the company titled payroll.xls. I might. Now, if you're a bad guy and you're there and you're prowling the system, don't you think you're going to say, ooh, that's good. And you're going to try to download it or open it. You're going to try to look at it. Except the minute you touch it, bada bing, you get alerted. You get alerted. You can enroll your canary in Active Directory, so it's easier to find. When attackers investigate, they'll give themselves away. You're instantly notified, and I love it because you only get the alerts that really matter. No false alerts, no just hellos, just an alert when something's bad, and you can get it any way you want. Email, text message. With the Canary, you get a console. Of course, it'll log it there. You can have it Slack you. It supports webhooks, so it can go in a lot of places because of that. They support syslog. I know a lot of sysadmins like syslog. They even have an API if you want to write a little custom thing that pops up. Maybe all the hue lights in your house go red if there's somebody attacking your Canary. You can do it. Canary was created by this company, Thinkst, that is founded and run by people who have trained companies, militaries, and governments how to break into networks. Okay? I mean, these are accomplished hackers. And what they know about hackers and breaking into networks, and they built it into the Canary to make the most attractive, easiest to configure, least expensive honeypot anywhere. You'll find Canaries all over the world. They're one of the best tools, a big part of your security strategy to have these on your network. And if nothing else, it gives you peace of mind because if somebody were in there, you'd hear about it. Visit canary.tools/twit. Okay, that's the website. I'll give you an example. You can get as many canaries as you need, but I think a reasonable number for a medium-sized business or small business like ours, say about 5, right? A handful. Those would cost $7,500 a year. You get your own hosted console, as I mentioned. You get all the upgrades, all the support for the year, maintenance. And if you use the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box, you get 10% off for life, forever. So please do that. Please put TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box. I know you're going to love this thing, and you're going to be really happy you have them on your network. But if for any reason you're not happy, you can always return your canaries. They have a 2-month money-back guarantee for a full refund. Canary.tools/twit. This thing is brilliant. I just love this. And I love it that it's silent because that means we're okay. The canary in the coal mine, get it? Canary.tools/twit. Only difference is when this canary sings, you know you got a problem. Enter the code TWIT in the How'd You Hear About Us box. That'll save you 10%. Don't forget, that's a 2-month money-back guarantee. So you certainly you could try this. And I would suggest, if you're at all skeptical, try it. It's really remarkable. They've done such a good job. Canary.tools/twit. When you're at canary.tools, if you go to canary.tools/love, you'll see a bunch of tweets from CISOs, big names in the business who use these if you need that for reassurance. Canary.tools/twit. Back to Mr. T. Mm-hmm. I'm going to call you Mr. T from now on. You're going to have to get a mohawk.
Pity the fool.
Pity the fool who doesn't know how to turn off something in Edge.
You keep a file called payroll.xx.
I know.
Are you crazy?
I know.
Are you crazy?
I didn't say I do. I just might. I might. I'm not, it's like you want to name it right. You don't want to be like, oh yeah, social security numbers.txt. Yeah, you want to, payroll's a good one. I'm just saying. All right. Continuing on. We did our 365. Oh, I should mention this. Joe B's retiring.
Yeah.
What a surprise.
I go way back with Joe B.
We love him.
I think people forget how long he's been at Microsoft and what he's done. So a lot of people are familiar with the Media Center stuff, which was an eHome thing that got in a bunch of trouble with big Windows for doing their stuff, and went on to Zune and, of course, Windows Phone. It was part of the team that did a lot of the Metro UI kind of stuff, which is what all that was. It's not like he sat down with a pad of paper and invented the UI or anything. He was on the team. But the thing about Joe was he was just kind of a bright and enthusiastic, outspoken, kind of good front end for this stuff. The first time I saw him this is what virtual events were in the 1990s, kids, was I went to a movie theater in Phoenix and Microsoft broadcast a show over satellite, which is how you had to do stuff back then. And you would go to a movie theater to see it if you couldn't be it. Right. Yeah. So at the time, I'm going to guess that the year was 96 or maybe 97 at the latest, probably 96. Windows 95 had come out. Joe was on the team that did Windows 95 and a lot of the new UI stuff there, IE stuff as well. And they were talking about the next two versions of IE. And over i.e. 2.0 and 3.0, they were going to implement things like frames, and they were going to do their own kind of unique take on that. They were going to do things like sitemap, which never ended up coming out, where you could see like a kind of a file manager style view of what a website looked like, which in retrospect makes no sense. There was going to be an integrated sidebar FTP client, all that kind of stuff. And I saw him on stage, and I thought, virtually, right, because I was in a different state. But I thought, wow, this guy is really interesting. He's really, peppy and exciting, and whatever. And I eventually got to meet him, of course. I've seen him at 100 events over the years, but he was was part of a lot of stuff, and at Microsoft, the stuff I care about quite a bit, actually. And he took a sabbatical, I think, in 2015, right around the time Windows 10 came out. I don't know this for a fact, but I think him and Terry didn't quite get along. I think there was a little clash of ego there. When he came back, he went on to I believe it was called the Windows Experience team. So they were doing some of not the core Windows engineering work, but some of the UX stuff around new apps like the Photos experience, with the Fireball special effects and all that stuff. And then he eventually went to actually the Office team. I think one thing people don't really realize, because it pandemic and not so much public facing stuff anymore, but he was working on some Office / Microsoft 365 end user experiences probably for the past 2 years. And he's a guy like Jeffrey Snover this happened with as well, when that guy kind of moved on from his core Windows Server, PowerShell stuff, and went to the Microsoft Graph in that case, or with Joe Belfiore, certainly. I thought, this might be the end, not because it's not, good work or because it's not interesting, but it's just not what he had been doing for most of his career, and is not really public facing,
Yeah,
I think
what
Joe's
he was
big
good at.
strength
He
was communicating.
Yeah. He was
he was a bright spark. I like Joe a lot. It is an unfortunate sidebar of history that he was on stage and said certain things that never happened, and then people wrote about it, and then he denied that he ever said that. And it was like, Joe, there's a transcript and a video of you saying this, and he got caught up in the Microsoft nonsense, which is too bad. But he's a great guy, and
I feel like we're doing his obituary. Should I light a candle?
Yeah.
No.
Well, Leo, do you find it suspicious that him and Mary Jo both moved on in the same week? I do not.
Do you think he's just going to spend more time with his money, or do you think he's going to do something else? It's pretty young still, right?
He's too young not to do something else, but I think for the next few years, he's going to try to make a go of it, just hanging out at home with the kids and whatever.
Yeah, but, sometimes, you got enough money in your life, and you want to spend time with your family, Yep. I understand.
Well, Terry Myerson, same thing. He didn't move on. He's not, Terry's not the CEO of some company, but he keeps busy. He has his charitable work, and he's part of some business groups. I think he was part of a group that bought like what's it called? The Sooners or whatever the soccer team is in Seattle. I think he's part of that, I think.
So just a little inside baseball. We only have one photo frame. So I just, this is, when we're talking about Joe, I just fold Mary Jo back, and then it's Joe. And
actually,
then
it's a lot like that in The Exorcist, where they, what do they call that, when they flash a scene really quick?
Yeah.
You think you saw
subliminal.
Something. Subliminal
Joe,
like,
Joe Belfiore.
Every time I look at Joe B, I see Mary Jo for some reason.
It's the hair, I think. It's the hair. Anyway, yes. He's going to be there for a little longer, yes? Or is he already out the door?
Yeah, he's sticking. I don't remember what the time frame was, but he's going to stick around for a little while. But he's on the way.
Mary Jo Belfiore. They're all retiring. Yep. So Microsoft had a very good quarter last quarter. We talked about that on our last episode. Now we've got Intel, we've got Apple, we've got Samsung, we've got Amazon. This has been the big week for tech results. Any thoughts on those?
So many nights the past week I've been like, all right, I'm done for the day. Let's lay down, and oh God, like Amazon, Apple,
Maybe Mary Jo enjoyed reading earnings reports, but I don't think anybody else does. It's not fun.
I have to, it's my job. I got to write this up. So look, Intel is interesting because they're a bellwether for the PC industry, right? It's over half their revenues come from their client group, which is PCs. That business was down 17% year over year in the most recent quarter. Data center, which is their, should be their up and coming business, but frankly, I think that's what's really going to hurt them with ARM and whatnot. Down 27% year over year. So not helping matters. This company is in the middle of making tens of billions of dollars in investments in fab facilities around the world, the United States, Europe, and elsewhere, to become the next, I always get this wrong, but TMSC, I think, TSMC, because
this is
the
their
market
new
leader. In
this is
chip fab.
their new plan under their new CEO is to be a fab and a foundry. I mean, a designer and a manufacturer. That's right. Two different businesses.
Well, back in the day, this was Intel's big strength. Back in the day, this was Commodore's big strength with MOS technology. I mean, people don't really remember that, but there aren't many companies that do this. So all these companies we associate with chips, Snapdragon, Qualcomm, Apple, Samsung, they don't have their own. They don't have a building that builds chips. They outsource that to someone, TSMC. And so Intel wants to be one of those companies, not just designing and building their own chips, but also doing it for third parties. So that's expensive. And
they're in this transitional state now where their old business isn't doing all that well. Their new business hasn't kicked in yet. It's, it takes years to build these fabs.
Mm-hmm. The economy right now is bad for everybody, but it's particularly bad for Intel. This is just not.
I wonder, if there's thinking, this was bad timing. Because I think a lot of companies thought we're going to come out of the pandemic with a bang, and it's going to be go, 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 and it hasn't happened.
I think a lot of companies. Well, I will say this because this is the way, unfortunately, the finances work for companies like this. Is I think one of the struggles big tech had coming out of the pandemic was we're never going to be able to match the growth that we just saw.
Right.
We somehow have to do something that makes it look like it's okay.
I think that's right.
And the economy fell through the floor. And now they can say, well, it's not our fault. I mean, now this is happening. I think this is going to give them a good out. Intel doesn't, they're kind of screwed here. I don't know what they, I think they'll be okay. Don't get me wrong, but they have nothing to fall back on, and they are spending all the money and more than they have to get into this next act. And so we'll see how it goes. But who knows? Maybe the U.S. government will bail them out.
Well, they already, in fact, they didn't build the fab in Phoenix that they were planning until they knew they were going to get money from the CHIPS Act. And then once that happened, then they broke ground. So they are counting on that.
They needed
support.
That. That's exactly right. Yeah, and that's like tens of billions of dollars.
Yeah, there was 20B.
Yep. It says big. All right. So that's Intel. I mean, we'll see. Apple had a great quarter, although I read something really nuanced about this in Macworld of all places, which I'll get to in a moment. But the results, with the exception of iPad, all of the businesses were up. Now, the one negative I pulled out of this was services is Apple's second biggest business. It's been their fastest growing business for a long time. It's no longer its fastest growing business. In fact, its revenues only went up 5%. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly that's why they just raised prices on their services. In fact, Apple CEO Tim Cook denied that explicitly, but that might be why. So that's kind of interesting. This is where me not knowing enough about Apple contributes to a little bit of a hole.
We have a show you could listen to if you really.
Yeah, it's okay. So, the Mac experienced a 25% increase in revenues. That's incredible. This business has been around since 1983. That doesn't make any sense.
Apple Silicon.
Well, the reason was they couldn't make enough of them in the last quarter. So this was actually the best quarter ever for Apple, but it was with an asterisk because last quarter was a disaster because they couldn't make enough of them.
Right.
This quarter they made up from last quarter.
So it was kind of
artificial.
Demand.
Yeah. So that was that. But anyway, Apple, like everyone else, is going to have some issues in the quarters ahead, yada, yada, yada. But iPhone, almost $43 billion in revenues, up almost 10% year over year. Are you kidding me?
Wow.
Services, didn't grow that much, but still almost 20 billion in revenues. Mac, 11.5 billion. The only down one was the iPad, but they just released new iPads right after the quarter ended. So I think iPad's going to be okay, guys. That's what I'm trying to say.
They did caution, though, the next quarter is going to be tough.
Yeah.
Partly because they aren't going to ship new Macs this year. That's the other thing they said.
So, it's weird because this quarter gets the boost because it's the holiday quarter, right? So a company like Apple should do okay. I agree they would have done better if they could have had more consumer products. But I feel like they launched a bunch of stuff in September. They launched the new iPads in October. I don't think we have to worry too much about Apple, I guess is what I'm trying to say there. And then I'll go through Samsung. We don't care about too much, but just as the primary competitor to Apple in the phone business, blah, 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 54 billion in total revenues, up 4%, which is a record, by the way. Operating profits were down. I don't really care too much about profits, but the mobile division, 22.7 billion, so roughly half the company, up 13% year over year. And they cited, sales of their most recent devices that you would expect. So their outlook for the rest of the year, honestly, they're like, yeah, we're going to be fine. They're like, we think smartphones and wearables are going to grow despite the continued instabilities. Low-end, mid-end tablets contract slightly. Premium tablets is going to be fine. And they feel like they're going to continue to grow. So they're the one company, I think, in tech that I saw that was like, yeah, we'll be fine. So I thought that was kind of interesting just for that reason. Amazon did great as well. 127 billion. AWS surged 27% to 50 billion in revenues. Microsoft, of course, has their, I think it's just called the Microsoft Cloud now. It used to be, but Mary Jo would know, it used to be whatever the name of that fake business was. That business is bigger than AWS, but that business was cherry picked from the best of Microsoft. So it's not really possible to compare these things head to head. Let's suffice to say that AWS is bigger than Azure, probably by a factor of 2 or 3 today. So that thing's going gangbusters. But Amazon's results were boosted by having 2 Prime Day sales events in the quarter, first time they've ever done that. And they looked at the current quarter and said, we might not even be profitable in this quarter, in the holiday quarter, which is crazy. And they're going to have revenues in the 140 billions, wherever that falls. My watch is very excited about something. I'll leave that for
Probably
later.
wants you to stand up. I think you should stand
it does
up.
a little.
Yeah.
It's like a Samsung washing machine. It plays little songs. Nice.
For some reason, Japanese hardware appliances tend to play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I don't know.
I got to get a toilet just to get the full experience. Is that Dolby Atmos? It's incredible. It's really strange.
We have appliances throughout the house that sing to us.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's very Ray Bradbury.
We coincidentally, not for any design, but we have a Samsung washer dryer here, and we got a Samsung washer in Mexico. And that one, I swear to God, plays a 3-minute pop song.
Oh yeah,
it doesn't stop. Like it just goes to town.
Yeah, ours does.
It's really
too.
funny.
Yeah.
I don't.
Funny is one way to put it. Yeah.
I find it humorous.
I used to have a water purifier, Japanese water purifier, that played long sonatas after the water was.
I don't know. It's exciting. It's very happy.
It's very happy.
I get the feeling of accomplishment. It's nice.
My rice cooker plays Twinkle Twinkle Little Star when I start.
Nice.
And then I don't know. It's less exciting.
What's the brand on that? Do you know?
Oh, Zoji Rushi, the best. Oh, you need a rice cooker? Zoji Rushi.
We have the most basic rice cooker. It's just it makes a pop sound when it's done. It's just a single switch,
I got what Doc Rock, who's Hawaiian and lived in Japan for a long time, recommended, and he then told me which Japanese rice to get from Japan, and I got like a 20-pound sack. So if you ever want some rice, I got some.
Yep.
And it is every time.
It's the size of a pillow.
It's so good. It is. It's literally the size. That's exactly. I didn't think of that. I could sleep on it. But oh man. Oh, I love the rice. And it's so easy. I said it. I'll be home at 5. Make sure there's some rice for me when I get home. And it's wonderful.
I went through about a 6-month egg rice phase this year where somehow in my YouTube feed, it was a guy from, I think, Korea making rice.
You put an egg in it?
Yeah, put an egg on it. So you like poach eggs and put it on top with some sesame oil and soy sauce. And, you can cut vegetables and stuff too, but it's incredible. It's probably super unhealthy, but I went to town on this for 6 months.
It's okay in Japan, China, Korea, because they eat this much. They eat the tiny. You and I, we can make a bowl of this stuff.
Exactly. It's a salad bowl. Exactly.
Give me more.
Yep.
Doc Rock told me the best thing when you have leftover Kentucky Fried Chicken is you put it on top of the rice in the rice cooker. You cook it. When it's done,
all right. So, since you mentioned it, our sushi place in Mexico City, which is called Jin-Chan, made they do ramen on Thursday nights. It's like first come first serve. They run out and it's over. So we went and did it because they called it JFC chicken.
JFC, of course.
for Jin Chan. They had a funny little logo for it,
Cute,
but
cute.
Yeah. But it was literally Kentucky Fried Chicken style chicken on top of ramen, and it was. And they said, we've never done this before. And I said, well, do it. Make sure you do it every week because we're going to come back.
We'll be back.
Because it was so good. So good.
I love it that you go to Mexico City to get great Japanese food. I just cracks me up.
I know.
I love that.
I had excellent fried chicken on that trip twice. And we met one of our we knew her virtually, but we went.
I saw the pictures of the dinner. Yeah.
Yeah, so she said, look, I'm going to take you to this place, and I don't know if you're okay with this, but honestly, we should just get one of every one of the appetizers. They're kind of small, but she says they make the greatest fried chicken in the world.
It's hysterical.
And they had never made it, but the pandemic happened. So the guy who did that started working on recipes, and everyone in the place loved, so now it's at different restaurants everywhere. But fried chicken was not a thing in Mexico City, but now it kind of is because of the pandemic.
What?
So it's
why?
Because it's super easy to make, and then they could give it to people to go if no one was going in restaurants, so they could make a bunch of it at once. They would just ship it out the door, and everyone would take it home, and then everyone kept saying, "Yeah, great, I want this exact same thing next week."
Yeah,
and they kept. So now it's a permanent thing on the menu. So, yeah, so I too like. It's like I don't have fried chicken, that much at home, and I had it like twice in a week. It was the weirdest in Mexico. I know it just doesn't make sense, but.
What a world. What a world. Without Mary Jo Foley to stop us, I think there is nothing in the way of doing.
No one will believe me when I say this, but Mary Jo left last week, and this is probably the biggest Xbox section I've had in 10 years. I don't know why. I just.
Sure.
It's a weird coincidence is all I'm saying. There's a lot to get to.
Have you been playing the Modern Warfare 2?
Yes, I have. And I am so happy to report for the first time in possibly 5 years that this game is fantastic, and I will be playing it going forward. And I'm so happy. I have been playing an older version of Call of Duty because every game that's come out over the past few years has been terrible. And this one's great. I think that it's too bad. It's not a big deal, but remember they shipped the campaign a week early if you pre-ordered it on digital.
Yeah.
I was in Mexico for that. And then the game came out on Friday, and I was in Mexico for that.
Well, don't you have an Xbox down there?
No.
Oh, Paul.
No, I don't. I know. So I had to wait till I got home. But I did play the beta, so I kind of had an idea what I was getting into. And all the lag and latency problems I had with the past two, Modern Warfare remake and then Call of Duty Cold War, Black Ops Cold War gone. It's all great. The graphics are fantastic, way better than Vanguard. They did, a little bit of a Halo Infinity type problem. Like I play hardcore games; those are not available yet. They're coming out on the 16th, so I have to play like the normal version of the game. It's okay. But the maps are great. I know. Anyway, it's great. So we'll see. I suspect this is going to be a record moneymaker for these guys, which is great because they need.
They have ups and downs, right? I mean, they've had some bad updates. They do one every year, and sometimes they're better than others, I guess.
So that's about to change, by the way. So next year will be the first time since, I don't know, the year 2005 or something that they don't have a new Call of Duty. But I couldn't be happier because they're going to take this game, continue it forward for another year, and they're going to put out the Legacy Classic map pack that I've always wanted, which is X number, I don't know how many, 20, we'll call it 20 levels of all the best levels of all time from all the different versions of Call of Duty. Next year is going to be even better. I cannot wait. So anyway, they're doing a good thing. So Call of Duty is back on track. Thank God. So it's a big thing for me because this is what I play. It's good. In less good news, I guess, although this is exactly what I thought. This is exactly what I've always said. The Xbox consoles have never been profitable ever. And I've always said this. And people always say, well, how do you know that? And I say, because they never talk about it being profitable. If this thing made money, they would have talked about it. It's never made money. So people, it's sort of like the razor blade scheme, although I don't think that holds up. But the idea is they lose money on each console. They make it up on game sales and peripherals and all this stuff.
But it's a breathtaking amount of money.
It is on this generation, $100 to $200 per console. So this is the difference between Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo. Actually, I should say, when Nintendo enters a market with a new device, their goal is we are going to make money selling this thing. And Nintendo is unique enough of a business that by and large they are able to do that. Obviously, if something is in market long enough, they may cost reduce it or come out with new versions, and that kind of helps them become profitable. But they don't have to sell the software to become profitable. Like that's another profit center, but that's the way they are. The way Sony does business is they typically, although this generation I think is going to be very different. In the past, they've always come up with a new console generation and said, look, we're going to lose money on this thing in the beginning. We're going to build up the base. We'll make it back on software and peripheral sales, of course. But over time, we are going to make money on the console because we're going to cost reduce that thing. And eventually, we're going to make money selling that as well. Microsoft has cost reduced their console, so especially the 360 and actually the Xbox One. Remember, there were two other versions, the Xbox One. Those things never made money. So they lost less money over time. That's the Microsoft model, but they make it all up in software and peripherals. So how does that work? Because you can't, as an independent developer, say, I want to release a game on the Xbox and just put it out in the world. You have to go through Microsoft. Microsoft, it's a cut of every deal, everything that goes on at the console. That's the market. That's when, Apple kind of lashed out at Microsoft because Microsoft was complaining about the App Store saying you do the same thing. Yeah, but these are two different markets. Apple makes money when they sell an iPhone. Microsoft doesn't make money when they sell an Xbox. That's the plan. That's how it works. It's two different types of markets. So, we finally found out a number. Phil Spencer's been very vocal lately. We're going to get to him a couple more times.
This came from him.
He said that, $100 to $200 per console. I would imagine it's $100 for the S and $200 for the X.
No, it's the other way around. They lose more money.
Oh, it's the other way around. Fascinating.
Yeah, they lose more money on the cheap one, which makes sense. It just means that the S probably costs close to the same to make as the X.
I bet it does. Yeah, of course. By the way, I've been playing on the S for the past year now.
Oh, you have?
I play Call of Duty on this thing. It's fantastic.
Oh, you don't? Okay. So, but
they could have come to market with this.
Interesting.
And then come up with the X. Yeah, I don't.
It's slower though, right? It's not.
Is it?
Isn't it?
I mean, honestly,
Oh, maybe not.
I think it's neat. I love it. I think it works great. So there's that. Phil Spencer also came out. He was on a podcast, and they asked him, of course, about Sony and all the complaints and blah blah blah. And he said, "Look, we're not." He said, "But of course," he said, "We're not taking the Xbox. Call of Duty off of PlayStation." And he was more explicit about it maybe than he'd ever been. He basically said, "Look, as long as there's a PlayStation, Call of Duty will be on the PlayStation. But better still, the goal with Call of Duty and other games that they'll acquire with Activision Blizzard is to do what they did with Minecraft, which is to make it in Java. No, is to make it available everywhere, right? He wants to bring Call of Duty to the Switch. He wants to bring it to mobile in more, in more ways than it is now. He obviously wants to bring it to Game Pass and do all that stuff, but his goal is not to limit where you get Call of Duty, it's to expand it. And it sounds obvious. I mean, obviously that's we've talked about how insane it would be for them to take Call of Duty off of the PlayStation, but I think now they're feeling the heat a little bit and they want to be a little more explicit. So anyway, he has said that. The other thing he said this week, which I thought was so beautiful, he was at I think it was a Wall Street Journal tech conference and speaking on stage, and they asked him and a bunch of other guys, I think, what do you think about this metaverse thing that Meta's doing? And his response to this question is why I love this man. And I don't know if anyone knows anything about him. He's obviously an industry insider, but he's unlike every other executive I've ever seen at Microsoft or any other big tech company. He doesn't speak in platitudes and doesn't have lofty speech he's just a plain spoken kind of normal guy. And the way he answered this question, he said, I'm going to get in trouble for this. But he said, I think in the video game world, we've been putting the people in 3D spaces for years, saving the world, conquering it, blah, blah, blah. But he says, building a metaverse, it's like a meeting room, is not how I want to spend my time.
Thank you.
That's a poorly built video game.
Thank you.
Poorly built. I was like, bam, exactly right. He has voiced exactly. That's exactly.
Yes.
Meetings are already terrible. Now you want me to be in a virtual, so I'm not going to be shooting aliens, but I'm going to be looking at Bob from The Office. Yes.
I don't know anybody who disagrees with him. That's
obvious.
But
no one will say it.
No one will say it, though.
His boss got on stage and promoted Teams at the Meta
Ugh.
Joe. You know,
Ugh.
it's like you're right, exactly. So I love him, and I love how plain spoken he is, and so every time he utters anything about, by the way, think about all the stuff we just got. How much they lose in every console. We're not taking Call of Duty off PlayStation. This thing about meta.
He gave us the whole show.
I know. He gave us a quote about price increases. Like, hey, everyone's increasing prices around on everything. Are you guys going to increase prices? He's like, yeah, probably, but we're not going to do it before the holidays. Let's get through this. It's a terrible year financially. Let's just, let's get through this. We'll see. We'll look at this stuff again next year. I mean, we're looking at it, but again, it's just I love the way he speaks. We need more of this. This is the clarity I don't get from elsewhere at Microsoft. I love it.
I'm sure there's a good reason why executives aren't forthright and honest, and but it is nice when one is. I feel like there's got to be a reason they're not. Like, they're carefully cultivated not to say anything.
Oh my God. You want to hear it? Did you read you probably don't read stuff like this. You should go look at the Tim Cook quote in the Apple press release about the quarterly results. I'll read it for you if you want to hear it. It is the most garbled nonsense that means nothing I've ever read in my entire life.
Yep.
This quarter results reflect Apple's commitment to our customers, the pursuit of innovation, and to leaving the world better than when we found it. He said, as we head into the holiday season with our most powerful lineup ever, we're leading with our values in every action we take, in every decision we make, in every breath we take.
I'll be watching you.
Exactly. We are deeply committed to protecting the environment, to securing user privacy, to strengthening accessibility, and to creating products and services that can unlock humanity's full creative potential. What?
If Steve Jobs had said that, everybody would have just laughed. But Tim is sincere and
God, he's out of his mind.
And sweet. You kind of almost give him credit for
If someone had said that in front of Steve Jobs would have said, you're fired.
Yeah, you're right.
What you just said is ludicrous.
Yep. No, you're right.
You didn't say anything. I passed it through the word filter. It said 0 words. There's nothing there.
This is why I don't really attempt, people say, why don't you get Tim Cook on? Or, I don't ever attempt to interview CEOs or athletes or musicians. They're all good at not saying anything in interviews.
Oh my God. But this guy's a genius.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Skilled. Especially
well skilled. God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Sorry. That freaked me out. I have never seen that much gobbledygook in one paragraph. It was unprecedented. Yeah. Even for him.
Well, he didn't. Okay. I'm sure he didn't write it. I'm sure somebody in the marketing wrote it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm just saying it's
contrast that to Phil Spencer.
Exactly.
But honestly, Satya Nadella says stuff like that all the time. I mean,
I tell this story a lot. It was Greg Sullivan. I was at this. There was an event. XP was in market for a long time. Longhorn was delayed. So they did this interim update. They were going to release it as a new version of Windows, but they realized they couldn't charge people for it. So they said, look, we'll just refresh Windows for free. And it was like new digital media stuff, new home networking, all the stuff. And the code name for this was XP Reloaded, right? Which I knew. I was writing about it a lot. And so I went to the launch event for this thing. And I guess they don't call it XP Reloaded out in the world. They had some nonsense marketing thing. So I was talking to one of the PR people, and I said, this is XP Reloaded, right? And the guy said, Paul, Microsoft is constantly reevaluating how we deliver software and solutions to our customers. And just as he was talking, Greg Sullivan walks by. I'm like, Greg, this is XP Reloaded, right? And he was holding a glass of red wine, and he held up the wine. He goes, yep. And then he keeps going. And I looked at him. I looked at the PR guy, and I said, that's how you answer a question. I was like, what is wrong with you? Just like unbelievable. Like you can just speak clearly. Why can't you just speak clearly? Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm always looking for this clarity, but that's why I love Greg. Yep. Anyway, okay.
It also tells you something about somebody's seniority that they can do that and get away with it.
Absolutely. By the way, he's still kicking around today, so good for him.
Yep.
All right. It's a new month, as you know, November. So we've got Games with Gold and Xbox Game Pass. The Games with Gold is looking pretty sad, so I don't want to go into that too far. Remember, they used to do Xbox 360, sometimes OG Xbox, and also Xbox One games. Recently, they ran out of titles they could bring forward. So they stopped doing the older games. Now all we get is Xbox One or newer. And so I thought that's great. We're going to get like 4 new games every month. Now we're just getting 2. So it used to be 2 old, 2 new. Now it's just 2 new. So I don't recognize either one of these games. The Praetorians HD Remaster and Dead End Job. This is games with gold. Okay.
Why would you want to play a game called Dead End Job? That's not a game. It's life.
I know. Well, it's a career now. So, however, the first half of the month is looking really good for Xbox Game Pass. So if you have Xbox Game Pass console, PC, Ultimate, which is cloud, bunch of new stuff, bunch of good stuff coming. The biggest one though, Return to Monkey Island.
People are so excited about this. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
There's a game called Pentiment, which actually I'm going to be testing pretty soon, which I know nothing about, but that is coming soon. And then 2 Walking Dead games, which these are the old, what was it called? Telltale. Is that the name of the game studio? Telltale, I think. I played through at least 2, if not 3 of these. In fact, the New Frontier one, I think I did play that game through. These are great games. And then this one called The Walking Dead Michonne, which is based on that character, which you might know from the comic book and or the TV show. So really, really good. So this is a good month for Xbox Game Pass. And what else we got? Oh, this is a little convoluted, but Twitch, which is a Amazon service, right?
Yes.
It has a partnership with Microsoft that's starting tomorrow and runs through the 11th. And the idea is that you can get 3 months of PC Game Pass if you purchase or gift 2 new subscriptions on Twitch between those dates. So in other words, you're giving this as a gift, and then you get a gift back for yourself in the form of 3 months of PC Game Pass, right? So Twitch is a service. Well, it's on the console as well, but it's primarily for PC, where you can live stream and also watch other people play games. So that's kind of a cool cross-platformy kind of a thing. And then the last 3 items I have here are kind of industry news type things. So Sony reported their earnings like every other company on earth, because I had to write about them all. Some interesting news for PlayStation, not much of it very good. Sony has plans to sell 18 million PS5s in this fiscal year, which ends at the end of March in 2023. As of this quarterly result, they're halfway through that year. They've only sold, I think it's 5.7 million units. So they sold 3.3 this quarter. They must have sold 2.4 the previous quarter. And now they have to make up the other 12.3 million somehow in the next 2 quarters. Sony says they're going to do it. So apparently a lot of the constraints have dried up, and maybe things are going to be okay. I have a hard time imagining that, but they have other issues too. So PlayStation Network has 102 million monthly active users in the quarter, down from 104 a year ago, lowest number that Sony's ever reported. Not that they've been reporting it the entire time, but for the past couple of years anyway. And then PlayStation Plus, which was just redone to be a little bit more like Xbox Game Pass. Remember, multiple tiers, etc. 54.4 million subscribers, which is down from 47.3 a year ago. So there's a lot of stuff that's not quite where it needs to be. But Sony seems to think this current quarter is going to be great, and we'll see. But what did they say? I love this is probably English is a second language type thing. But the CFO of Sony, when asked about these declines, said it was due to more people going outside, which is kind of a nod to people were playing games a lot before when they were stuck inside.
More people are outside. That's good.
Yeah, but Call of Duty just came out with a new version that's going to go big for them. So I think they're going to be okay. Sony also announced their new, actually what they did announce was a bunch of new games coming to this thing that's not out yet called the PlayStation VR 2, which is the new VR headset and the controllers for PS5. But they also said, by the way, it's coming in February. It's coming February 22nd next year. So now we have a date. So it's obviously we already knew it was missing the holidays. They're going to release it on February 22nd. It's going to cost $550. Yikes. I don't remember what the PS4 version cost, but I'm going to guess it was like $399 at most, something like that. This seems really expensive.
You get those little controllers with knobs on the end. You get a headset.
Yeah, the dog will gnaw one of those things. You'll use one to prop a door open. I don't know. And then the final little bit of gaming related news is some number of months back, Google announced that they were bringing something called Play Games for PC to the PC, obviously. A way to play Android-based games, not streaming, right? And not using Microsoft's Android subsystem, but play them live on your computer using some form of an emulator, essentially, I would imagine, or a virtual machine. It kicked off with a very limited beta in some strange countries. Sorry, I think it was like Malaysia, Singapore, and one other place that I remember. But as of today, the service has expanded to the United States, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, and then Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, and Singapore. So it is actually finally available in more places. It's still a beta. This just happened right before we started the show, so I haven't been able to check this thing out. But they noted some games: 1945 Air Force, Blade Idol, Cookie Run Kingdom. I don't know any of these games. Ebony, The King's Return. I don't know. So I have been curious about this since day one. I wish to God Microsoft and this company could get it together and work together, but Google is going their own way. So really curious. By next week, I'll check this out. I'll see if there's anything to say about that, but that's kind of cool. And that's it. Actually, that's it.
Well, normally at this time, we would stop and wake up Mary Jo and tell her to stop petting the cat, but we don't have to do that anymore. We're just two bachelors living on our own, eating leftover.
We're being the best us that we can be.
Best really. That we can be.
Eating egg rice and drinking whiskey, basically. By the way, whiskey and egg rice would probably be a fantastic combination.
Oh, yeah, we gotta try that. Isn't it great being bachelors? All right, we are. One thing we don't, we haven't figured out what we're going to do replacing the beer pick. I mean, Stephanie's always welcome to come up with a cocktail pick, and I'm sure she will. We have, I guess today we've come up with some rice cooker tips, which is new for us.
Yeah, so I ended up just having a bunch of tips. So I have 3 tips today. One we actually went through a little bit, so I kind of preempted one of these. But
tip away.
I think I mentioned. Yeah, I mentioned last week that the Windows 11 Field Guide ebook, this is the version you can buy at LeanPub, would be available imminently. That took an extra day more than I thought, but it is now available. So if you go to leanpub.com/Windows 11 Field Guide, all one word, you can order the book if you want it. It's $9.99 or more. You can pay more if you'd like. I'm not going to stop you from doing that, but that will give you the PDF, EPUB, and Mobi versions of the book. It's aligned with the version on the web that's on Thurrott.com if you're a premium member, and it will be going forward. Right now, I think the version that's live is somewhere between 375 and 400 pages. I've got additional chapters I'm working on, so every week it will be updated. So I haven't sent out update emails yet. I don't want to overwhelm anybody, but probably in the beginning, I'm going to try to keep it to once every 2 weeks or once every month. But I'll keep a list of everything I've updated so you can keep up to date there. So anyway, that's available if you'd like to buy the book. If you don't, that's cool.
Cool.
And then we talked about this earlier, but if you are going to use Edge, and I would say actually, since I wrote this, even if you're not, it's important to configure it correctly. So there is a chapter in the book actually, which will be updated yet again about this topic. There's an article on my site, but the first time you step through that out-of-box experience, there's very specific steps you need to take. The thing I have in the article is most people have already stepped through it and didn't think about it. You can go back and fix your choices, and you should, frankly, because there's some tricky stuff in there. But there's also some things you need to do. If you're going to use Edge, by the way, if I could just give you one bit of advice, install one or more anti-tracker, kind of extensions, uBlock Origin, Ghostery, whatever. I mean, be sure to do that. Because Edge is, it's good in many ways, but it's not going to stop bad trackers at all. It just isn't. And then the third tip is about the Windows Dev Kit, which, by the way, I've almost pulled the trigger on like 5 times. Like, I really want this thing. This is a Mac Mini looking Windows on ARM device. It's got the latest processor, 32 gigs of RAM. I think it's 512 gigs of storage, if I'm not mistaken. It's $600 in the US. It's aimed at developers. I've been talking to, I will say, I said this last week, and I've since talked to Raphael, and he confirmed for me. I didn't ask him to say it. He actually just said this himself, exactly what I said, which was, I don't quite understand this notion of like, you're going to sit down at a computer and use it, because this is not a computer any developer would ever sit down and use. It just isn't. So a developer is going to want to remote into this thing so they can deploy their app to it from Visual Studio on a real computer. That's, I think, how most people who are developers would work. However, it's still a good deal. It's still an interesting thing. I think it's going to find a home in a lot of enthusiasts and all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing. This is the asterisk, and this is super important. Last year, I bought I wonder if it was $200 or $300 dev box for Windows and ARM from Qualcomm, which you may remember, had the same problem as this, which is this. If you buy that thing, if you buy this thing, you can't return it. This is a one-way street. There are no returns. So you need to be 100% positive that this thing is worth $600 to you. You're actually going to use it as a developer or as an enthusiast, I guess, because you cannot return it. They will not accept returns.
That's weird.
I know. And I only learned about that after the fact from two different people who had gone through the process, and they were like, did you know that when you go to buy this thing, you agree you can't return it? And I was like, really? Because I experienced that a year ago. And I don't remember the exact price of the Qualcomm one. I want to say it was $300 or less, but I remember at the time I sort of thought, well, it's okay because I know I'll be able to sell it for half price to someone. It'll be worth. I just want to evaluate it and see what it was like. And that thing was a piece of junk because it was like a 700 series Qualcomm processor, which is mid to low level. This one's going to be a little bit better. This will be very similar to that Lenovo laptop I just reviewed. High-end chipset, even more RAM and a good amount of storage. So it should be okay. But you need to know what you're getting into, especially. And now that you can't return it, you kind of really, really need to know what you're getting into. I know it's tough.
Yeah, that's weird that they won't take it back.
It makes me wonder what it is. Like, is this like leftover parts from like a Pro X or something, or like, what? I don't know.
This is the plan to make that money back.
Yeah, right. Well, we did that part of Microsoft didn't do so well last quarter, so we're going to bump up. We're going to bump up the hardware. Yeah.
Paul Thurrott's Field Guide to Windows 11 is available at leanpub.com. You choose the price. Now, if I turn it all the way down to $9.99, what do you earn? Oh, you still get $7.99. This is a good deal for the author. And if I decide to pay $60, you get $48. So much better than publishing it with a publisher.
I get random emails from LeanPub that tell me that people bought this. They don't actually send me every purchase. It's kind of random. Right. But I would say 2 or 3, 4, whatever, some number of them, people have actually paid more, that $19.99 or, $24.99, whatever it is. And that's super nice. Like, that's really, really nice.
I would pay more for it. Yeah.
Really, really nice. It's certainly appreciated.
So this is definitely an ongoing project, right? Oh, yeah. So you will continue to get updates.
Yep. Yeah, every week.
Nice. And it comes with, I think this is awesome, a free copy of the Windows 10 Field Guide.
Yeah. The idea there is I wanted to cover the stuff that was really different in Windows 11 right up front, but a lot of the other stuff, PC reset or...
You already know about. Yeah.
It hasn't changed much in many cases, so at least you have that to kind of fall back on until the contents and the...
So that's fantastic. Congratulations. Yeah. It's now available. leanpub.com/Windows 11 Field Guide is the full URL, but you can go to leanpub.com and find it. And of course, is it better? No, that's the beauty of this setup. You don't have to get people to buy it through your website. It doesn't get you any more money. But if you are not yet a member of Thurrott.com.
It's better for me if you buy the book. I'll just put it that way.
If you buy the book.
I pay directly. If you buy the book, I make money. So I don't make money if you read the website or what.
Oh, but is it all? No, I was saying that. Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. Do both.
Right.
I subscribe to the premium version of Thurrott.com. It's well worth it. There's a lot more than just the book. A lot of history of Windows programming and stuff like that. It's great. It's great. Paul is at THURROT.com. And boy, this really simplifies the end of the show. It's like, okay, we're done. I don't have to.
This is the weird hole at the end of the show.
It's the weird hole where we would normally drink beer. We'll find. I swear, we're
going to work on this. Yeah,
we'll find something to fill in there. Maybe your favorite peanut butter whiskey. I don't know, something. We are, and we should tell you, we haven't decided whether we should replace Mary Jo or just have a rotating panel of experts. I mean, Paul is plenty.
To be clear, replacing Mary Jo is impossible. It will. Yeah. We'll look. We're gonna.
It'll be a work in progress. It's an evolving thing, and we appreciate your support, your patience. I tell you, it's still a great show.
Understanding during this time.
Yeah, during this difficult time. Paul and I join together every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. By the way, starting Sunday, we're going to we're ending daylight saving time and going to standard time. So we'll now be at a 1900 UTC. I hope it didn't confuse you. There are people in Europe, for instance, who are already on
Mexico
time.
Too, by the way. Yeah, that's right.
So it might have confused some people. Paul, you figured it out. So good on you.
Well, we're on the same.
You did the math.
Planet, so we're
okay. You were on the same planet.
Right, it's okay.
Yeah, that's a good thing. For those of you on other planets, do your own calculations. That's all. That's all.
That's right.
You can
use your own number system.
Use your own number system. You can listen live while we're doing it at live.twit.tv. There's audio and video there. You can chat live at irc.twit.tv. Of course, club members can chat with us in the Discord as well. After the fact, on-demand versions of the show at the website, twit.tv/WW. Paul also posted on Thurrott.com. You can get it there. There's a YouTube.
And I will be in Discord next week, by the way. I meant to get
that's fine.
That going.
Don't worry about it.
I will do that.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, we love having you in there, but it was a good conversation going on in the background with Death Zero and others.
That's right.
Newman is suggesting Paul's Call of Duty Kill of the Week. That might be fun.
Oh, I like it. I've been making some. I've already been making some recordings.
Oh, that's interesting. We'd have to put a parental advisory up, but that'd be kind of cool. That'd be cool.
Paul's desecrating of a corpse of the week.
Yeah, there you go. Paul's headshot. Wow.
That could be a thing.
On youtube.com, you can watch it. And of course, you can subscribe. And that's probably the best thing to do with your favorite podcast application. Thank you. Here's a Wizardling's suggestion for maybe a bumper, an intro to Paul's Kill of the Week. No, maybe not. Maybe not. Thank you, everybody.
Just animate that guy and make it look like he was talking.
Yeah. I'm Paul Thurrott. I'm here to devastate. Thank you, Paul, and have a wonderful week. We'll see you next time, everybody, on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.
Don't miss All About Android every week. We talk about the latest news, hardware, apps, and now all the developer-y goodness happening in the Android ecosystem. I'm Jason Howell, also joined by Ron Richards, Florence Ion, and our newest co-host on the panel, Wen Tu Dao, who brings her developer chops. Really great stuff. We also invite people from all over the Android ecosystem to talk about this mobile platform we love so much. Join us every Tuesday, All About Android on twit.tv.